gonna backtrack. And you should've kept my name out your mouth. As we go, how it all turned out. When you try to use my name for clout, keep on going, think it's something you could talk about.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing on this fine Thursday, July 31st? Wow, a lot is going on. I have a lot racing around in my mind. Okay. So yeah, I've been doing 50, 11, 400 trillion, 322 different things. So I'm a little scatterbrained at the moment, but shout out to everybody in the chat. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Shalom, James Allen in the chat. Hey, Rita. Hello, Joy. Shout out to the cousins in the chat. John, Monica. Shout out to the mods. It's a jersey. I got it from this place. It's like an actual vintage one. What's it called? Ooh, Past to Present. Past to Present. It's on or near Black Horse Pike in like Runnymede, New Jersey. It is a really cool place. Okay. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Okay. So yesterday I started for the first time ever looking into the Tory girl. It flew across the room. It's over there now. I have backups. I started yesterday looking, go birds, fly eagles, fly. Y'all remember whenever the mayor or whatever could not spell eagles? Can we do it all together? E-A-G-L-E-S, eagles. Okay, so that was embarrassing. All right, we're gonna let it go, but that was embarrassing. Yesterday I started looking into the Tory Lanez case. Okay, and I just do want to preface this whole entire live stream with that's the level I'm at. Okay. So I know a lot of y'all know this case like the back of your hand. It's like back and forward, up and down. I'm not there. Okay. But I do know a little bit about some of the themes, we'll say, some of the people, maybe perhaps law firms. I've seen some of this stuff, so I'm kind of familiar with the contours of the world. But this Tory Lanez case, I'm really not familiar with it. Okay. But yesterday I was on live for about for about an hour, and I was actually about to get off, and I don't remember if it was I'm gonna learn how to say his name one day, Mbambo, or if it was James, or if it was somebody else. But somebody asked me just kind of offhand, like, are you ever going to talk about the Tory Lanez case? And I actually had planned to. Y'all can go watch that live from yesterday. It ended up being like 3 hours, I think. But I did do like a whole entire extended live stream looking into the Tory Lanez case. And it was all over the place. It wasn't very structured. I was just trying to figure out what was going on even. Shout out to, I think, Kaylee and some other people who were directing things my way. Shout out to everybody tagging me and stuff on Twitter, X. It's so weird to call it X, please. But like, yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to be asking questions that are like, everybody knows that that's real obvious. If that's going to bother you, if you're like too much of an expert for that, then, Godspeed, good luck and all that. It's just, that's where I am. I can't be what I'm not. And I need to be able to ask questions without being like, oh, I didn't know, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I just want to set the set and setting. You know what I mean? Yeah, y'all. I mean, some of y'all turned me on to roller sets. I've been trying to learn how to do them. I did one. It's day 2. We're day 2. Thank you so much. I have so much going on in my mind right now. Like, I have so many things going on. Like, there's this whole Diddy thing happening. Now today, earlier, he's done moved for acquittal. Mark Agnifilo is doing interviews. I had to watch that. I'm tired. I feel like I need a vacation. Yeah, I've been learning a lot of things. I've been learning a lot of things. The umbrella. I don't know if y'all knew. That's the symbol. See, I didn't even know that. That's the symbol. That's the emoji. If you want to do the Tory Lanez fan, emoji is umbrellas. I did not know. Okay, so yesterday was day 1, and then while I was going over it, y'all were probably all in here or whatever. There was a lot of stuff going on. that I had questions about, I was suspicious about. So I made this Twitter thread to kind of like mark my thoughts or whatever, like where I am at the moment, day 2. Okay. I just want to keep reiterating, I'm not an expert because they like to sue people for anything and everything. Please do not go talk to anybody mentioned here. Please do not take anything I'm saying as a fact. This is day 2 of me looking into this. All right. Okay. So I did do like a little Twitter thread or whatever, and this is just kind of my thoughts right now. So this will kind of recap if you don't want to go watch the 2-hour long thing yesterday. This is kind of some of my like main takeaway type of questions that I have right now going into this today. Now, what we're going to actually do today after we read the Twitter thread, I'm going to read to y'all and read and react to, because I'm going to be also reading it for the first time, the most recent filing in the Tory Lanez case, and it was filed by him. The most recent that I know about, it was posted as and put up as the most recent filing. So maybe at the time I'm recording this, something could have been filed in the last moments, but a very recently filed document in the case. And attached to this document is another important document. So it's all put together as one. But what it is functionally, I believe it's a motion for leave. So for permission from the judge to amend or add to or change some stuff about his previously filed petition for a writ of habeas corpus, which has to do with like it's not unlawful detention. It's like it's another word that I get, another phrase like that. Like it's Latin and it's shoot. I don't remember. We're going to read the document though. Okay. So we'll as we're reading through, it's going to be self-explanatory or not, or not, but hopefully at least, we leave with a little more understanding and a little more information. So these are kind of like, I'm going to read this Twitter thread first and just kind of like let y'all know like what my starting point is. This is like a live investigation, a live reading, if you will. I do not know any of these people mentioned in the case. I have not met any of them. I have not spoken to any of them. I have not spoken to their fathers. I know those are allegations that get made against Milagro because I have read her lawsuit or some documents in the lawsuit going on between her and Meg the Stallion, which is also happening sort of in a side bubble universe to this one we're in with the ROC Nation and the Desiree Perez. Y'all, my jaw was on the floor yesterday when I saw all of these familiar names coming up over and over. Yeah, I'm new to this. Tea with Tia. I think I actually had reposted something you posted yesterday. Oh, you're new to this. Welcome to the rabbit hole. The case is a spiral of BS. Wow. Just starting. Yeah, just starting. We're just starting. I'm just starting. And actually, like anybody that joins in the next probably like 15 minutes probably could just start wherever they start. Cause I'm not gonna, until I'm like actually reading that document. This is all kind of like recap. So you could probably just play it on 2x or whatever till I get to that document, which won't be long. This isn't that many tweets, but I do want to give a context to just let y'all know like where my mindset is. Also, just want to be very transparent about my mindset as I move through this, because as y'all all know, this is a very litigious group of people. These people like to sue. I personally, I'm done with lawsuits. I've been there, done that. I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm gonna do everything I can to stay out of a lawsuit, okay, to my best of my ability. And that includes making a lot of disclaimers, and not only to stay out of a lawsuit, but just for the truth. My whole thing right now here is like, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on, what's being said and not. So it's a big, huge mess. Everybody that's like a part of this case or researching it or looking into it or covering it or whatever is like, ooh, welcome to the rabbit hole. It's like, I know. I can already tell. It's like a lot to get your hands around, especially when you're joining 5 years later. So just, I'm just going to go at little, this and that as we go until I can kind of start piecing this together. Again, y'all, I got to make these type of disclaimers. I know it's like annoying and stuff, but I know y'all see how they've been doing. I mean, even the Blake Lively of it all. She's done tried to get the Google information from 107 content creators, not me, thank God. Not that I know of. Maybe somebody just handed it over. Not me that I know of. But no, I actually think the reason that I haven't been pulled into it is because it's like inconceivable that I'm working for anybody. Partially because I make all these disclaimers. I try to look at all sides. I do fall into bias. Sometimes I'm just like, I think this person did it, or I just don't, or whatever. I do. And I'll tell y'all when it's a bias. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I saw there was some mods in the chat. When I start covering kind of like a new topic, sometimes there's like a little bit of an influx of like new people in. So I just like to lay a little bit of ground rules here. And just try not to say too many graphic and, words that might trigger robot algorithms to come through here and mess with my stuff. Just try to keep it cute in the chat. Thank you. Yeah, I was doing like Britney Spears. Yeah. Yeah. And also protecting myself and also if other people, and then nothing I ever say over here is legal advice. I would never tell anybody what to do or anything. But, this is I'm also letting other creators know that the reason I say some of this stuff is for legal protection. Sometimes people I pick up, what Sean Reyes does sometimes. I'll pick up what other creators and stuff do. So it's not legal advice. I'm not saying it necessarily would help you or will help me, but these are the reasons I am doing it, and do it that way you will. Yeah. Oh my God. Thank y'all so much. I think the reason that y'all think I look good today is because I moved my camera. I think it's just a more flattering camera angle, truly. I think it's because I moved my camera. I mean, I do have the little, but like so many people are saying it. It must be that like I just look different because the camera moved. Okay. Right. Exactly. We see how they play over there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I like to look into things. Everything's for me just about like getting to the bottom of it. And a lot of y'all really have been persistent. You've been persistent with wanting me to talk about this. And truly, I am very aghast. I am aghast at the Milagro Grams or whatever Milagro Cooper. Excuse me, I forget her last name, but like there's some stuff going on in that case that was like, what? And I meant to actually make videos about it. It's just been other stuff's come up. And it is kind of like starting a new topic, which takes a certain amount of like inertia, a certain amount of energy. And that's kind of why I think my brain feels kind of fried today. Okay. Oh, congratulations. Hey, Biatch Corpus. BJ, I took the bar exam yesterday. I was thinking about you. It's bar exam time. Oh my God, I wouldn't go back and do that again. Oh my God. I mean, listen, never say never. Whew. Did you use a test prep? If anybody's asking me, just go with Themis. They're like 30% the cost of the other ones. That's one I did, and it was just fine. And it's easier, and you get your weekends. Not sponsored at all. They probably don't even want to be associated with me if we've been honest. But it's like the cheapest one, Themis, or it was 5 years ago when I was studying. Themis. Themis if you need to study for the bar exam. Shout out to you and congratulations. Okay, so here's the tweet thread. Let's do this. Okay. So I said yesterday, I started looking into the Tory Lanez case on my live stream at the request of some subscribers. We've already been through that part on the story today. I said, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far, in my opinion, okay, y'all heard that part? In just one sitting, okay, I haven't, and I say this also to say this. There's a bit of an elephant in the room, but I'm trying to have a little bit know how to act about it. I know that other people cover the case, okay, and they have their opinions about it. And I just want to say I don't have too much of opinion about it, but I also don't want to get dragged into like people's personal beefs and stuff. Cause like I said, not another one. I just got here. So I don't want to have to be like navigating like drama beef landmines with like other people covering case, if you know what I mean. If we could just kind of like keep it cordial for like right now or whatever while I like understand what's even going on, because I'm telling y'all that for content creators, if y'all want more content creators, maybe don't give a shit. But if you do want more to come and look at it and see it, and so far it's been really good. Like it's got to be like a hospitable environment. It can't be people being like, you don't know that, because it's like, okay, they got it under control. Bye. So that's why I keep saying I only looked into this for one day. Some people might have been sitting in the courtroom. Some people might have been covering it every single day. So I don't want to get pitted up against somebody else or anybody else as like, oh, this person said this, but this one disagreed with this. I already kind of see like a little bit of a drama, like landmine I'm trying to avoid, if y'all know what I mean. Thank you. Yes, thank God. All the cousins are here. We've assembled. Okay. Okay. So, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far, in just one sitting, I have serious questions and concerns about the case, all the way from the investigation aspect portion of the case. Um, and I'll get into examples as the Twitter thread goes on as to what that is, all the way up through the trial with some, more of the evidentiary type stuff. So he appealed, as y'all know, and the oral arguments are scheduled for appeal. Now, I have read mixed reviews, mixed opinions on whether or not oral arguments are always scheduled. If this is like everybody gets an oral argument, I will say I've been in a federal court before for civil stuff, and the judge decided on like every issue without oral arguments. So this is different. I'm going to look it up. He's got oral arguments scheduled for appeal. I'm going to look it up and just see if I can get an answer. California Court of Appeal. California Court of Appeal. Oral arguments obligatory? Question mark. No. Oh. Okay, well, okay, so I'll just read y'all what the AI overview says, and we can kind of click around a little, because this is a big question, right? There's an argument over how viable Tory Lanez's case for appeal is. There's a couple other cases for appeal, high profile right now that I can think of. Ghislaine Maxwell, for example, I've read through her appeal paperwork. I don't think she has a very strong case. The only thing that she may be able to win on is like a little bit of a technicality, like the Supreme Court has to decide whether or not this immunity deal in one district applies to another one. And you're going to hear the same thing come up in the Keefe D case, the Tupac murder case that they're doing in Vegas. He's arguing something similar to Ghislaine Maxwell, even though their crimes are completely different, alleged are completely different. But in the Ghislaine Maxwell case, just to give y'all like a set point, right? I'm reading through her appeal and I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think so. A lot of this stuff's up to the judge. Maybe this one thing about this immunity deal off to the side, but that's because the Supreme Court might have to decide on a circuit split. But when I was reading through some of the stuff about Tory Lanez's arguments, for example, I was kind of more like, this is strong arguments. Like this is like real due process arguments. That's, my opinion. So it's been argued amongst, I'm kind of walking in and it's like, I'm walking in and it's like, Jerry, I see it. I feel it. The heat on the both sides. There's free Tory. There's, the other side. And it's like not a lot in the middle. And so there's been arguments over whether or not the oral arguments in these cases are just, everybody gets that. That's not a big deal versus, no, it is a big deal. And it means, there's the sign of hope for Tory Lanez. Again, I don't have an opinion at this point. I do think that there were some evidentiary issues, perhaps some DNA stuff. I have questions, but I don't have any opinion at this point. Yeah, I know. I see the passion. That's fine. As long as it's directed at something else other than me. Okay. Just don't direct it over here. I come in peace. Okay. I'm just trying to understand what's going on at request. I know you were in here yesterday when this was requested. Okay. I've been requested. I've been summoned. All right. Yeah, we have, you see, it's a both sides situation. They're saying Milagro is discussed. And again, I don't know anything. I had never even heard her voice. I don't know that I'd be able to pick her out of a lineup, truly. I just saw some legal arguments being made and being pushed because I think it's easy to do it to somebody that's like a not very sympathetic. And then now it applies to you and me because it's precedent. So this is what the AI overview says. It says, in California Court of Appeal, oral argument is not automatically obligatory. The court allows oral argument in every appeal case. It will only schedule time for it if a party specifically requests it. Well, I'm sure he specifically requested it. Parties must notify the court within 10 days of receiving notice of the case. Okay, so here's some more detail. The California Court of Appeal do not automatically schedule appeal in every case. Show me the link. It ain't Lincoln. The parties must actively request the oral argument if they wish to have it heard. Okay, so if no party requests the oral argument, the court will not schedule it. Okay. Wait a second. This is a little bit, okay, I actually could see how it's, like most things, it's kind of in the middle. You don't want to hear, the middle view. You might want to click off before you get your cortisol up, okay? But yes, on the one hand, it is true. The court is not going to automatically skid, not going to be like, oh, please come in. I'm begging you, come do an oral argument. Everybody has the right to request an oral argument in their appeal case. So in Tory's case, he had the right to appeal. Everyone has the right to appeal. Everyone has the right also to an oral argument under the California laws. Okay. However, there is an exception. The court can decline to schedule the oral argument if the appeal is deemed to be frivolous, or if the issues have been recently decided, or if the case is adequately presented in the briefs on the record. So the judge could say, no, we don't need to have oral argument. I can decide just based on what's written here. The judge at the bottom. Okay, so in a way, this is good, but in a way, it also is like parts of this are kind of just routine. Good for Tory if you're here, because I think it's more free Tory in my chat right now, but everybody is welcome. Because I don't have opinion. I mean, I'm not, again, I don't know. So the judge could have said, no, we don't need an oral argument. I already see the lower court judges. There's nothing I could really do. There's nothing I can really overturn. No, I'm not going to do oral arguments. I'm just going to decide on the briefs. Could have declined to schedule if they deemed that the appeal was frivolous. If the judge said, no, this is just silly arguments, they have no merit, the judge could have said, we're not doing oral arguments. So in that way, it is good for his case that the oral arguments have been scheduled, because that means that at least the judge didn't deem it to be frivolous, and the judge has questions. It wasn't adequately presented in the briefs and the record. And if this is I'm saying the judge, this may be a panel of judges. This may be a 3-panel. Usually I think appeals courts are 3-panel. Panel. I think it's a panel. I'm not sure. But yeah, okay. So that's the whole oral arguments got scheduled thing. Okay. And then I'm like, okay, so I think he actually has a few strong arguments, specifically the Brady evidence issues and the DNA results being inconclusive and incomplete. This, in my opinion, from what I've seen in, one day, of reading the documents and stuff, raises serious unresolved reasonable doubt. Like, was it him who pulled the trigger, and was a trigger pulled at that moment anyway? Yes, there was gunshot residue on two people's hands, but I mean, I'm not a gunshot forensics expert. That's why they have these guys and women come and be those at court. But like from what I understand, if you're in the very near vicinity, it can get on you. But if it's on your hands, why? If you just now shot it, apparently can still be on the actual pew. And then if you touch it, so there's all kinds of ways that it could get on your hands, but it was found on two people's hands, Tory Lanez's hands, and also Kelsey Harris, from what has been reported. And then you have this eyewitness neighbor saying that he saw a woman shoot the gun. So that creates, in my mind, from just coming into this from one day, a reasonable doubt of who pulled the trigger of the gun at all to get gunshot residue on their hands, or if that's how it got on there at all. I would need to hear from the forensics expert. But that guy then changed his story. I have questions. And I do outline the questions here. As of right now, with literally 1 day of research, why wasn't DNA collected and run for Kelsey Harris? Y'all told me yesterday that they did not run her DNA. I don't know if that's true or not. I did 1 day of research, okay? But there's people telling me they did not run her DNA. She also has immunity for her testimony. She pled the fifth. She pled the fifth. She pled the fifth. So they ordered her to testify, but in order, to do that, you have to be granted immunity, or you have to grant the person immunity from the testimony. The next question I had was, where are the supposed bullet fragments? And how did they become missing? So if you're brand new to this case like I am, I found out yesterday, apparently, Megan Thee Stallion, and look, I do want to say this too. If he really did shoot her and she had bullet fragments in her foot, he should be in jail, prison. What? If he did, and she did have bullet fragments in her body, then he should be in prison. But I don't know beyond a reasonable doubt at this point that he did. So, I mean, there's questions. If we could rule out the other person who had gunshot residue on their hands, that would be helpful for me. But that person's DNA wasn't run. And then, you have another issue. I had another issue that reminds me of, like, on these police reports, it says that, yeah, learn to understand it. Nobody knows what happened. It's true. It's true. This too. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I forgot what I was about to say because I get distracted looking at y'all's comments. It's my fault, not your fault. But it is in this universe here about, like, okay, so there's this video, y'all. There are people in here who also don't know this story at all. Okay. So y'all can educate in the chat, and I'll try to, read through this and that. I don't know, it's kind of fun starting a new case or whatever, but it's also kind of nerve-wracking. So there's a video. It's out and about, and it looks like it's like dash cam. It might be body cam. It looks like it's dash cam video. When the cop cars, like, there's a camera on the dashboard. So there's this dash cam video. And you can hear an officer saying, step out of the car. And I guess it's Meg the Stallion getting out the car. And it does appear to be like glass or whatever on the ground. And she steps right in it. And then, you can see that there's blood. For me, it's very grainy. It is like, I doubt it's even 720. Okay. So for me, yeah, I do see something down there on the ground. Yeah, I do see her eventually bleeding, but it is grainy. So it is hard to tell. It doesn't look to me like she was bleeding before she got out of the car. I'll say that. But it's hard to tell. It's grainy. But we do have more evidence, like these police reports where she told the police officer that her foot was bleeding because she stepped on broken glass. She stepped on broken glass. She wasn't shot. She stepped on broken glass. And then that's in the police report. So later on at trial, she says that not only did she not, that's not how she sustained those injuries. Instead, it was because she got shot at by Tory Lanez, and she had bullet fragments in her foot. And he was shooting out the car, and he was saying, dance, B word. Dance, B word. In fact, one of the court documents, the opening statement, and shout out to Kaylee for sending this. The prosecutor, when they were prosecuting Tory, the opening statement was that quote, dance, B word. So it's the first thing the jury heard of the trial. The first thing they heard was that quote, dance, B word, pew, 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 pew. Or pew, 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 pew. So they really focused on this dance aspect of it. But when she first spoke to the cop, she didn't say that. Now, does that mean that she, that it's not true, that it didn't happen? No, of course not. People lie to the police all the time. Very often, on the first time they talk to him, and then they come clean later or whatever, they tell the truth later, whatever. I actually I can have an open mind to the idea that maybe she really was scared to say that she got shot at. So I'm open to that idea. Again, my second day here. Okay. I know y'all got your minds made up 5 years, but I don't. Okay. Melanie said, I'm new. I'm new. So yes, thank you. Dominican Dream. Exactly. So that was my question here. After why wasn't any DNA collected and run for Kelsey Harris, who also had gunshot residue on her hands? Where are the supposed bullet fragments and how did they become missing? The police lost them? I mean, this is kind of like one of those things, y'all, where it's like, all right, do you think we should be able to convict people where the police lose the primary evidence? And how did the police lose that evidence? Like, what if there was no Cassie tape? Like, there's got to be some like evidence. Like, that's my problem with it. Where's the evidence that he did it for sure? Because even the DNA that they got off the gun it's not a for sure match, but it's not like a not match. It's quote inconclusive. They weren't able to conclude if it was his DNA or not. But then there's the magazine. The magazine that holds the ammunition does not have his DNA on it. Negative. Okay, fine. So give me some other evidence that he did it. Like maybe that people in the car said he did it. What if all three of them were like, he did it? What if he said he did it? Like where's the evidence? So it's like, all right, let's look at these bullet fragments. Let's look at the bullet fragments. First of all, are there any? Because where are they? They're lost. They gone. But even if we could get them, we would need to see. Does it match the bullets that were in the magazine? Them bullets to that green gun? We would need to see. And it's like, we don't even have the fragments to test anything. Where's the fragments? Why are they missing? That's like really important evidence. She's saying in the beginning she didn't get shot. So now it's like her, now necessarily she's impeached. Impeached means not credible. So when you can't just take somebody for their word, you need external evidence, like somebody else saying it, or I mean something. You need something else. And I'm sure they did give, things at trial, but where's the bullet? Where's the bullet fragments, girl? You can't just lose the bullet fragments. What? Okay, yeah, and this one, what's the deal with the eyewitness who said he saw two women fighting? He saw a woman shoot the gun, and then he changed his story for the first time on the stand. Like he was friendly with the prosecutors and stuff. Actually, somebody commented on this one. Where is it? How do I see the comments? They said he moved out of the country and sold his home. Not a single juror ever spoke out or did interviews. The doctors never testified. Okay, that was one of my questions. The doctors that removed the bullet fragments, right? Because I'm in search of some evidence that there's bullet fragments even in existence at all. Because they could have went to the gun range and got gun residue on their hands. I don't know how they got gun residue on their hands. So shot residue. So I need some evidence. Where's the bullet fragments? Where's a ballistics report? Where's the trajectory of the fragments through the leg showing where it came from? Where's that x-ray with a bullet fragment? Where is, I think she did post one of those on Instagram. Somebody said, I want to see the bottom of the foot. I want to see the glass, like I don't actually want to see it. That's nasty. I don't like looking at injuries, but what I mean is I want to see that someone saw it. I want to see that it was put into evidence somehow, some way. And also, if you don't have any of that, maybe the doctor who did the surgery, yes, I remember removing it and it looked like to me and it had this number on it and here's a picture. The doctors didn't testify. That's true. Okay. Location said there are x-rays and pictures of the foot. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So good. Allegedly, they said two people in a car recorded the whole incident. Well, where's that? Fragments are in the x-ray, they saying. Okay. Okay. Okay, so there's like a lot of PR back and forth. Grateful says, to be fair, the police officer who testified said the fragments were lost. Alex Spiro, though, recently said that that's not true. Okay, all right. That Alex Spiro is also Meg Thee Stallion's lawyer, just in case y'all didn't know. They're saying Milagro was the one spreading misinformation for repeating what the officer said. Oh, see, that's what I'm saying. I just got here. I don't know. Okay, maybe they have them. Maybe they have fragments, y'all. Maybe they are not missing. We'll have to see. KG said the initial x-ray did not have fragments. This is a fact. Okay, all right. Interesting. Okay, so he moved out of the country. Okay, well, somebody had said something to this, but I don't know how to like operate Twitter, I guess. So, and then I'm like, okay, and also what's up with the conflicts of interest between Rock Nation and Sean Chapman Holly? Why did Meg's story change from broken glass to getting shot? And what was the surgery? Yeah, this is another question I have. Okay, so nobody denies Meg had a surgery, right? So what was the surgery for? She had to undergo something like knocking her out anesthesia. What was the surgery for if it wasn't for fragments? And then I said, did the doctor testify? But they said lower below that they didn't. And then, of course, they can't, if they didn't testify, they weren't cross-examined. Did the public see the medical records? Y'all are saying, yes, there was an x-ray. Some of y'all are saying that there's fragments in the x-ray, and some of y'all are saying, but initially there wasn't. I don't know. I would need to see them myself. I guess I have to see. Again, where's the fragments? Maybe they're not missing. They're saying Alex Spiro recently said these aren't missing. That's not true. That's not true. They're not missing. No fragments are missing. We got the fragments, Alex Spiro said. Okay. All right. We'll see. So I said, these are some of my starting questions. Allegedly, they lost the fragments, Slee Stan said. Mind you, she went to a very qualified emergency room doctor with years of experience first. He said she had a laceration. Right. Oh, that is true. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes. Something that I read, I think it was the report of a doctor, or maybe I don't exactly remember. I did read something in the last day that did seem to indicate that a doctor actually did confirm it was just a laceration and it wasn't it wasn't pew pew. This tweet goes on to say, you mean to tell me that Rock Nation affiliated doctor was more qualified and the ER doctor wasn't? Right. And that brings up questions about like, Dr. Bober in the Demore Hadley case. Okay, so Ashley has the other side of the coin. She's saying that Meg stated time and time again, this was at the height of the George Floyd protests, and she didn't want to be the reason for another black man to potentially be getting shot by the police. Okay, fair. Okay. No, Desirable said the doctor that removed the fragments did not testify. An intern who allegedly assisted the doctor testified, and the doctor has been connected to Rock Nation, they saying. Okay. Okay, so those were some of my starting questions before we get into the most recent filing in the appeals case. Laceration comes from glass that she spoke of on the police reports. Maybe so. Simply Fee said Alex Spiro does not work in the DA's office, so he should not be speaking on their behalf. Okay. Conflicts of interest. Yeah, these doctors a lot of times do have these conflicts of interest. They're saying, no, that's BS. People are saying that's not true. Kaylee said she never stepped on glass and lied about stepping on glass because of George Floyd. Oh my gosh, girl. The drama. Okay, let me pull up the most recent filing. This was filed by, or what I think is the most recent. Maybe something else got filed since here. Okay, this was filed on the 28th of July. So, like this week, today's the 31st. This is a leave to amend the petition for a writ of habeas corpus, and he's already done the writ of habeas corpus petition. And this is he wants to amend it, but he's like kind of like asking, "Oh, T with T, yeah, this is your document, girl." I knew I got something from you. Leave to amend the petition for writ of habeas corpus. Okay. To the Honorable Elwood, I'm just trying to see which judge this is. Louis. See, okay. Maybe it's not a panel. Petitioner, or maybe a panel doesn't decide on habeas petitions. Let's see. All right. So he wants to amend his originally filed writ of habeas corpus because there have been some changes in statute in the California Penal Code, okay? In light of recent statutory changes to the California Penal Code, he wishes to analyze and apply Senate Bill 97, which modified California Penal Code Section 1473 in regards to new evidence to his underlying trial. In support thereof, he respectfully avers as follows. So this is not his. Actually, let me just read further to make sure I'm not about to say something inaccurate. Let me just read this next paragraph. Let's see. Petitioner's current, so petitioner is Daystar Peterson, that is Tory Lanez. Petitioner's current actions pending before the Court of Appeal on August 10th, 2023, so 2 years ago, he filed his appeal, and collateral to that appeal, the direct appeal, he also filed his petition for a writ of habeas corpus on December 12th, 2023. So a couple months later, he files the petition for a writ of habeas corpus. The direct appeal contains traditional issues raised on appeal, while the collateral petition. Okay, so we're working with two big documents in the appeal. We're working with like just the straight up appeal, and also there's this habeas corpus one. And this one is focused on new laws in the state of California. As further issues developed, petitioner filed a successive petition for writ of habeas corpus. So he filed another one, a second one. And that was last year in October. And that is whenever I kind of did start getting wind of things going, like maybe some new evidence came out, maybe some other stuff happened. This is October last year, month after Diddy got arrested, if you're keeping up with the web timeline. The crux of the successive petition, the second petition for a writ of habeas corpus, is the existence of constitutional violations due to the deprivation of exculpatory evidence. So if y'all will recall, I haven't read this. If I did, I would have had it, highlighted like I do. Oh, this don't highlight. God, that's the one thing about whenever you have a watermark like this, it makes it hard to highlight, which I like to do for my own understanding, but also I think it helps y'all to see like even where I am and what's the main points. The direct appeal contains traditional issues raised on appeal. The collateral petition. So do y'all remember whenever I was like, okay, the main things I see that he has good arguments on are Brady and evidence violations. So like if the prosecution was keeping something from him, exculpatory, inculpatory, keeping evidence from him, like 911 calls, stuff like that. I'm like, okay, hold on. That's a strong argument. The rap lyrics argument, maybe it's a strong argument, y'all. I'm just not convinced. It's like, it's such an overblown issue at this point. I think we should all just come to the realization that whatever you wrote and sang about and did art about is going to be used against you in court. It just is, no matter if it's rap lyrics or not. But, it is the criminal justice system in the United States of America. I would be lying to you if I told you it's all good and fine and equally applied. They're going to use your lyrics against you. The appeals court's not going to give a shit about the lyrics. They're just really simply not. However, there have been recent actual laws changed about lyrics specifically. So in that one specific circumstance, he might actually even be able to actually get them to appeal it on those grounds as well. So even if that was like, okay, just get over it, they're going to use the lyrics. Like, I still thought the other arguments were stronger. The Brady violations are alleged because that counts as prosecutorial misconduct. Exactly. NBA young boy. Um, I mean, I kind of did, y'all. I mean, listen, I was like way out on the periphery. I didn't know any of these artists like that or anything like that, especially at that point. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess he did it. Cause the news will um push like such a one-sided thing that you think it just must be that clear. So yeah, I mean, like I really honestly I didn't think that much about this case really at all. But if I would have thought about it, I would, oh, he found guilty, I would have been like, oh, I guess he did it. I definitely believe men abuse women, and that was a big push. Not all, obviously, not all of them, but like it wasn't hard for me to believe because the news was pushing it so one sided. And at the time, I wasn't even suspicious of the news being one sided, right? Like this was 2020. I was like hooked on CNN, I was thinking they were telling the truth about everything. So, I mean, I would have even probably, believed it too. But now I'm like, maybe it happened. But did it happen beyond a reasonable doubt? I haven't seen that. Personally, I haven't seen that evidence yet. Um, yeah, well, it was one-sided, right? I see this is stuff I didn't know. There's DV charges I didn't know about, there's all kind of stuff. Um, okay, KG said, but in court, it's already been cleared because no one actually confirmed they ever heard anybody saying dance B word. It was just probably something they wanted to just put in their little opening statement or something. It kind of does sound very like is Meg the Stallion from Texas? Wait, where's Tory Lanez from? Because I mean, if he's from anywhere north of Texas, I think Meg the Stallion might have made up the because this is why I think that. Okay, I grew up in Louisiana, I grew up right next to Texas. Dance is something that the bad guys in the Western movies would say. He's from Canada? Oh, girl. He didn't say that, I don't think. Okay, this is bias. Okay, I wasn't there. I think that sounds like something somebody from Texas would say, actually. I'm from Louisiana. That is my expertise level. Take that for what it is. Houston, Texas, 4-hour drive from where I grew up. It's like the old Western movies would be Houston. Travis Scott's from Houston too. Those old Western movies, y'all, the like old black and white cowboy movies, like they were often racist, cowboys versus Indians and stuff like that, even though it was like Native Americans or like actually like white people with brown paint or whatever. But those movies, they would point the gun at people's feet and say, dance. And you would see their little cowboy boots going and then the dirt would be flying up. I'm like, that's the only place I've ever heard anyone say dance and shooting at somebody. And you shoot at their feet. Vic said, no, rappers do say that. Okay, I never heard that. But I mean, maybe I'm just not in enough rapper circles. I never heard that. I only ever seen that in Western movies, like specifically Texas. Well, this is the issue, J. Alicia Lewis. And that's why I said she impeached herself, because when you change your story, and I said this about Cassie, and I said this about Jane Doe, and I said this about Mia, and I said this about other people who I was very sympathetic to as well. When you change your story, you impeach yourself. It makes it to where we don't know when you saying something, if it's true or not. It's like hard to know now. Coco said he definitely would say that. Okay. I don't know if she got it from a movie or not, but I do know that in those movies, in these like Western movies, which like Louisiana isn't like West, like when I think of Western movies, I think of Texas. Like, yeah, they got rodeos and stuff over there in Louisiana, but like it's a totally different culture. Like the cowboy culture where you would be saying, dance, now dance, is cowboy, like Texas cowboy. Big ranch farm, bigger in Texas, like open sky, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth. No, I'm not new to hip hop, but I guess I just never heard that before, I guess. I mean, if y'all want to point me to the songs that say dance in it for shooting at someone's feet, let me know. Okay, so damn, man. Okay, the direct appeal can okay. So this part right here is like kind of like his lawyers are making the argument like on this part that I kind of like think is the strongest one. This habeas corpus as the further issues develop. The crux of the successive petition, the crux of the second petition is the existence of constitutional violations due to the deprivation of exculpatory evidence. That is Brady, okay? So let me just mark it here. So-called Brady evidence. This is the reason that Haley Bieber's uncle, Alec Baldwin, got off. And guess who his lawyer was? If I recall correctly, it was Alex Spiro, the same one as Meg Thee Stallion's lawyer. Okay, so now the same tricks he uses is getting used back on him. Even though, again, this is the criminal case. But Alex Spiro, I believe, represented Meg in this case. I think. Okay, Alex, don't sue me. All right. I don't know. I've been here one day, but if I recall correctly, somebody in the chat, correct me. Chat, correct me. Okay, so if you ever see this exculpatory evidence, if you get your notebook out and just write this down, because it keeps coming up in these high profile cases. And this is one of the things, this is your get out of jail card. Okay. This is not legal advice, but if you can prove this, you are so golden. Exculpatory evidence will get you off. And it is because it is very serious. Why? Because it's the prosecutor, the state, the government hiding evidence from you that could help you get out. In the Alec Baldwin case, it was a box of ammunition. So there was a bullet and unalived this lady, right? And there was like, that bullet came out of a box that you buy from a dealer or whatever, right? The box from whence the thing came was filed under a different case number somewhere else, kept from Alec Baldwin and his defense team. They were able to get the whole case dismissed and they can't retry it. Double jeopardy. Why? Because it counts as prosecutor misconduct. This is the most serious, highest level offense. So if you could prove that, it's much more serious than, a juror lied about one thing on their thing. No. This right here, high. If anything even sort of appears like it looks like there was evidence that was kept from you and it was really important, it has to be material to the case. It has to be, this is not legal advice. If you need legal advice, go hire a lawyer because I'm not your lawyer. But in these criminal cases, the strongest is like prosecutorial misconduct, abuse of process, Fourth Amendment violations, unlawful searches and seizures. Why? They're constitutional rights. This exculpatory evidence, though, is the prosecutor. We entrust the government to do a good job on the behalf of us, of we the people. That means they have to be giving people fair trials. They have an extra duty. And if they're keeping evidence from people, like 911 calls or bullet fragments, I'm not saying they are. These are just examples of things, right? Boxes, in the Rust trial situation of ammunition. I'm reading y'all's comments. Y'all are fighting in the chat. Exactly. Please, somebody please tag me on Twitter in an old Western. I know y'all got to be able to find one. Now dance. And it's like an old Western, like cowboy, like they got a bandana tied around. It's like, I never liked those movies. But just growing up in Louisiana, you see them at people's house here and there and stuff. And it's like, that's something that stands out in mind. They would spit in them spittoons. Ugh. There was always rattlesnakes everywhere in those movies. Rattlesnakes everywhere. Spaghetti westerns. I think they like filmed those in like Italy. I think that's why they called them that. But I do think it is called spaghetti westerns. It's like these cheesy like cowboy movies. Sexist, racist, all of it. It just was bad. Pawpaw, yes, my pawpaw would watch them. Yeah. And Matlock. Mhm. Okay, so this is why. This is the Brady. So you see the word exculpatory? Remember Brady. That's Brady. That's what gets you off. That's your get out of jail free. This is not legal advice. And if you shoot someone, you should go to jail. Okay, that's goes without saying. But if they're trying to come after you or me or any of we the people, we have rights. We have right to have all the evidence they had. And especially if it would tend to make you more likely to make it seem like you're innocent, oh, you really got to hand it over. But now it's just Brady is just anything that's important. It could be exculpatory, inculpatory, any of it. It's just anything that's important. Okay, so his two petitions for the writ of habeas corpus were consolidated and put into one document. So now there's just one sitting there. With the direct appeal, as all issues raised within said pleading stem from the same transaction. Okay. So his direct appeal and his habeas petition were combined together into one document. As all issues raised within the pleadings stem from the same transaction. Okay. So this is just the history of what's happened, which I am glad they do put in here because I did not know this. So originally it was like a bifurcated. It was like two different things that Tory Lanez lawyers filed. One was like a regular appeal. We're appealing. But the other was like the serious thing. Like, this is so serious. I mean, I'm calling it the serious thing. We're talking about like a gun crime here. Like, all of it's pretty serious. But like in the hierarchy, how I just did that explanation to y'all of like what's like ding, ding, ding. You have to let him out right now. Woo, woo, wee, woo. Fourth Amendment. Wee, woo, wee, woo. Sixth Amendment. Hello. Fair trial. Fifth Amendment. 14th Amendment. You have to let him out right now. Wee, woo, wee, woo. That's the writ of habeas corpus. The writ of habeas corpus in Latin, like roughly, it translates like a writing to release the body. You've seized someone's corpse and you need to give it away. You have someone unlawfully detained or retained. There's a word. It's kind of sounds like unlawful detention, but it's something else. And I can't think of it. And it comes into play here. Oh, Bonanza. Oh my God. That was one of them. Oh my God. Renegade. I grew up watching Gunsmoke and Bonanza, Big Valley, all those shows, the Waltons. My dad watched all that stuff. See, Papa's was watching it. Old cartoon said dance too. You're right. You're right. The Looney Tunes. Elmer Fudd was out here telling people to dance. But still, he's a little bit, he's like, where's he from? Yosemite Sam. Yosemite Sam was out here telling people to dance. Elmer Fudd was the one that was bald headed that was chasing bugs around. That's right. That's right. It's not that either, but unreasonable seizure is fourth, right? You took the bar yesterday. You better know. Seizure is fourth and search is fifth. Or I got it backward. Search and seizure. Sixth. I don't know, girl. Yeah. I'm glad I passed the bar years ago and don't have to do that crap again. Okay, but I'm not licensed. I gave my license up so I could talk on YouTube, okay? The two petitions for writ of habeas corpus were put together. So now it's all under one thing. But he's like, wait, we got something else to add. We got something else to add. What is it? What's the grounds for amendment? We 1 hour in, y'all, and we finally starting. Wee woo. The proposed amendment to the petition for the writ of habeas corpus is attached as Exhibit 1. The amendment is appropriate because it is based on facts outside of the appellate record, which recently came to fruition. Okay, new facts, newly discovered facts. Hold on, let me get my notes. I got a whole Tory Lanez section in my notebook now. We're in now. There's pages in the notebook for it. Okay. Wants to amend the writ of habeas corpus And why? And this was filed, y'all, just this week. This is like a really recently filed thing. T with Tia might be able to might be able to verify, is this still the most recent filing? Why? Newly discovered evidence. Oh my gosh, this is fun. I'm taking my notes. Hold on. Okay. Recently, okay, so the facts recently came to fruition. However, they arose from the same transaction and occurrence. What is it, y'all? I don't even know. I feel like I'm like, actually, like, I literally am reading this for the first time. Who knows what this is going to say? Is it this? This seems closer. Unlawful restraint might be right. What's unlawful detainer? It might be that. What's unlawful detainer versus unlawful detention? I think that's the two words. Why would Tory ever want to act Western like that, though? I don't know, girl. Have you seen the Cowboy Carter tour? There's a lot of people out here acting Western all of a sudden, and it's frightening. Some of it's cute, I will say. Some of it's very cute. Some of it is not cute, and I don't know why they're doing it. Okay, there's things can be said. Okay. No, I'm not getting my law license back. No, no. Spread the word. No, I'm not. Want to know why? Because I don't want to work for anybody, and I don't want anybody to be able to tell me what I can say ever again in my life. And the bar is not my daddy and is not my mommy. So why would I want to be in a club where somebody gets to decide if I'm in it or out of it? Like, no, no, thank you. No, thank you. Also, this is more fun. I like this better. This is better. Like, isn't this better? Like, I might be able to help like one person at a time, a few people at a time if I'm a lawyer, a practicing lawyer. I am a lawyer. If I'm a practicing lawyer, if I'm an attorney. But like, I don't know. I feel like I can make a bigger difference for the world and the people by doing this somehow. Like how many now there's like hundreds of people that know about exculpatory evidence all of a sudden that didn't maybe earlier. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Okay. So the whole point here that he's trying to make is that there's been some newly discovered evidence. Okay. New evidence. Okay. Through this bill. Okay. So this Senate Bill 97, what did it do? It modified the penal code in California. Issues of a new law are appropriate to be raised within a writ of habeas corpus as averred within the collateral petition for writ of habeas corpus. Yes, this is true. If there's a new law, issues of a new law are appropriate to be raised within a writ of habeas corpus. Sometimes they change laws, like in Louisiana, I think they changed the law a few years ago where if you got convicted of a crime as a juvenile and you had life in prison, you could convict a juvenile and give them life in prison without the possibility of parole. But something happened at a higher court. It might have been the United States Supreme Court even, where they overturned that. Like as a juvenile, you can't give life without parole or something like that. It's like, it's vaguely like this. Okay. This is like years old in my mind. Okay. It's something like this. But when that happened, all the kids that are now adults started filing these writs of habeas corpus because the law changed, or like the judges at a higher court had decided on the law in a different way. And so they're all like, let us out, let us out. People could use good representation. Yep, good and honest. And they do have good, honest lawyers out there. Mine are. The ones I have. They're good and they are honest. I don't know what that comment was about. Okay, which modified. Okay, so the law has been modified and they are bringing up this new law to the appeals court. But then they go, there's even more than that, though. Moreover, the issues raised through this amendment are directly related to the issues therein. Due to such commonality, this leave to amend is being okay. So this is just them giving their reason why they are filing it in this court instead of a lower court or a different court. Okay. 4 pieces of evidence that Tory Lanez wants to add in. Get your notebooks, okay? We're going to talk about the 4 new pieces of evidence that Tory Lanez and his lawyers want to add in because they think that maybe this new law allows them to do that or something like that. Okay, so number 1, first, Jaquan Smith has added to his existing statement, which is pending in the petitioner's petition for a writ of habeas corpus. Okay, so the original writ of habeas corpus has still not been decided yet. So they're saying, okay, well we're not going to put a whole nother one, but we're just going to add to it. We're putting more on it. And as part of that first set of the writ of habeas corpus documents or whatever, they had included a statement from Jaquan Smith. Now, who is that? He was there. He was there on the night of the incident, the alleged shooting. And he was like the bodyguard and driver or something like that. Something of that sort. He was there as like some type of quasi working capacity, I believe. He had submitted a statement in Tory Lanez's case. Now he's added to the statement. So the judge is saying, can you please add this statement to the statement? It is simply a continuation of his prior affidavit, which he already submitted earlier. This was in December 2023. Further, the same guy, Jaquan Smith, had additional relevant information, as it has recently come to light, that the serial number to identify the owner. Whoa. What? It has recently come to light that the serial number to identify the pew pew, remember they found a pew pew? Well, they got a serial number on it. Remember in Diddy's trial, somebody had like scraped off the serial number on one of the AR-15s or whatever. So they're like VIN numbers on a car, and it's so you can trace who owns it. It's the reason it's on there. So there was a serial number apparently on this weapon that now he's serving a prison sentence for. It has come to light recently that the serial number to identify the owner of the firearm in the underlying trial was not processed by law enforcement. What? Okay. Surely this isn't true. I am speechless. They never ran the serial. They just said that he picked that weapon up and fired it and never bothered to determine who it belonged to. When they were on the scene, they didn't say, who is this for? Y'all, no, this seems strange. Y'all, this seems strange. I don't believe this. I don't believe it. Surely this isn't. I'm just thinking about like literally every interaction I've ever had with the police. And at any point, if I had had a pew pew in my car, at the very least, they would have said, who's that for? Is that yours? That's the first thing they ask. Whose is this? And they let them drive away with it or what? No, they impounded the car. It's the first question. Appalachian Unicorn. She is the first thing they ask. Who's this for? What is this? Who is this for? And that person's getting cuffs now. You ain't supposed to have that floating around your car. I know that. I got enough 4-H under my belt to know that. They read the serial number. Hey, April. Haven't seen you since Diddy, girl. They read the serial number in court. They didn't bring it in. They didn't run it. Y'all, this is like, I gotta add this to the list of suspicious items. Okay. They didn't bother even to 2025. They never found out who the gun's for. They said in the paperwork they were unable to. That's what the paperwork kept saying. They were unable to. What? Y'all got my auntie out here having a comment. She's like, I had to go back to work after Diddy, but I had to be commenting out here because this is crazy. Did you already know this? This is crazy. This is crazy. Just this alone, this one factoid. I can't even get past it. I can't wait to see what they reply back to this. So Tory Lanez is now requesting that the district attorneys process the firearm. He can still advocate for his innocence and eliminate ownership through other channels. This is crazy because it's not his. He wouldn't be doing this if it was his, right? Is that what we're thinking? Is that what y'all are thinking? That's what I'm kind of thinking. Like, he wouldn't be going through all of this to, like, at the end find out it belongs to him. Would he? But then I don't know, maybe they would. These defense attorneys, they get crafty. Does it matter who it belonged to? You know, I'm going both sides. I'm thinking what they would argue back, Does it matter who it actually belongs to? I think more important than that, I'm still stuck on the DNA from the pew-pew. When his came back inconclusive, if you're a prosecutor and you want to find out the truth, you're going to run everybody's DNA from inside that car just to rule them out. Right? Okay, yeah. Mr. Smith is going to add to his statement to show that the firearm doesn't belong to himself and it doesn't belong to Tory Lanez. Furthermore, he's going to add to his statement that he never saw Tory Lanez in possession of any firearm at any time. Additionally, on June 17th, last month, the Attorney General was granted to unseal the camera transcripts from December 21st, 2022, regarding whether Mr. Smith, that's the driver, Jaquan, was going to be called as a witness. In response to the statements made therein, appellate counsel obtained a new statement by trial attorney George Magdisian. He confirms the statement by Jaquan Smith that he did not testify as it was close to the holidays. Further clarified, he was afraid of losing the jury if the trial ran through the holiday. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. So he didn't testify, or? Okay, I see. So it looks like Jaquan Smith, one of the eyewitnesses to this situation, was maybe going to be called as a witness, maybe not. He did not testify because it was close to the holidays and they didn't want to lose the jury if the trial ran through the holiday. I don't really get what this part's about, but maybe we'll get more context. Furthermore, Mrs. Magdisian, what in the hell name is that? I thought maybe it was misspelled, but that's like Magdisian. Stated his testimony, Jaquan's testimony, would have been cumulative to the key witness Oh, scheisse. His testimony was going to contradict Sean Kelly's testimony. Wow, this is crazy. His testimony was going to contradict Sean Kelly's testimony. Okay, y'all, so I see what's going on, I think. I think what's being alleged here. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Wow, okay. Most importantly, that's not even most important. I actually don't agree. I think the most important part is this. I think this is the most important part. Because Sean Kelly, exactly, changed his story. Sean Kelly changed his story on the stand, did he not? That's what y'all told me. So if he did, previous story was matching up with Jaquan. Jaquan was like an eyewitness to this situation, just as Sean Kelly. Who's Sean Kelly? He was the neighbor who apparently left the country. I don't know if that part's true or not. I got to be careful what I repeat because I do think some of the stuff gets planted out as fake just to like trap some of us. Like Milagro is being like, I don't know, maybe she said it on purpose. I really don't know. But like, I don't actually know if this man left the country, but people are saying that. People are saying that he did. He like testified and he's gone. So this Sean Kelly guy, he testified some different stuff on the stand than he had ever testified before and impeached himself. He impeached himself. Well, had Jaquan Smith, the other eyewitness, you know, like the bodyguard driver guy, had he had been allowed or been called to testify, then his testimony would have been presumably, we can't know because he didn't testify, but I presume what they're trying to make me think is that it would have shown a different story besides this one that Sean Kelly gave. Sean Kelly felt so the original who is George because it's calling Mrs. Magdesian, Mr. Is it Mr. George Magdesian? Then they're calling it Miss Magdesian. So I don't actually, it's kind of confusing like how they wrote this, but there's something to do with like Sean Kelly changed his testimony and what's his name? Jaquan Smith wasn't called up to testify because of the holidays. And they're kind of arguing like Jaquan wants to put this on the record to show like maybe some type of improper something. I don't know. Any further would just be pure speculation because it's like they're calling it trial attorney George Magdesian. Is this one of the attorneys that was with Sean Chapman Hawley? I don't exactly know. But the prosecutors or whoever this was originally stated that the testimony would have been cumulative to the key witness. Cumulative means he would have just been saying the same thing as Sean Kelly, but he would not have been just saying the same thing as Sean Kelly because Sean Kelly's story changed. Sean Kelly's original story was that the pew-pew was in the hands of Kelsey. But Sean Kelly changed his story and said that wasn't the case or whatever. Like he changed his story about who he saw the pew-pew in the hands of and coming from and all of that. He also wanted to clarify why he stated that Jaquan's testimony would have been, quote, unfavorable. It was merely the timing of the underlying trial. Mr. Smith's schedule, his relation to Mr. Peterson as a friend that made him a less important witness in his mind than Mr. Kelly. A previously unknown witness came forward last year, giving a statement that further emphasizes evidence given in the underlying trial. Someone named Bradley James explained that he was a bodyguard who was hired. Oh, yes, this is that infamous Bodyguard. Y'all are always like, the Bodyguard came out. This just happened, right? Yeah, last year. A bodyguard who was hired by Kelsey Harris to attend court with her. Okay. Okay, so this is after the fact. It's December 2022, and Kelsey Harris hires a bodyguard to come to court with her. Fair. I could see why. My most recent court experience, especially at the federal court, was abysmal. I wish I would have had a bodyguard. I wish I would have had a body cam. Mr. James, the bodyguard, overheard statements that Ms. Harris made, incriminating herself. Uh-oh. This bodyguard's affidavit falls within the parameters of SB 97, which provides writ relief for new evidence. It is new evidence. It is new evidence. As shown in the attached proposed amendment to the petition for writ of habeas corpus, this evidence should be admitted as an exception to the rule against hearsay because the statement should be considered a declaration against your own interest. It's also admissible as an inconsistent statement or a prior identity, so impeachment evidence. And it also is evidence of Ms. Harris's then existing mental state. And finally, Tory Lanez wishes to admit evidence that was produced at trial, but not introduced as evidence. So it came up at trial, but they never put it in evidence on the record as evidence. Somebody said that this guy, Jaquan Smith, came to court ready to testify, but they decided not to call him because they didn't want it to go into the holidays. I did see that formal ethics complaint. Yes, I did. That was something else. Shout out to Christy Green for becoming a new member. Thank you, Christopher Jones, for the $4.99 super chat. You're the GOAT. Thank you, Lauren, $5.18 for the $2 super chat. Thank you, Itty Bitty XO Kitty, for the $2 super chat, sending you a donation to Cash App. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Shout out to April. Welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you, Kiki Evans, for the $4.99 super chat. They don't report any of this in the media because it doesn't fit the narrative. Indeed. Thank you so much for that $4.99 super chat. The Life of Samad. Okay, thank you so much for this point. That makes sense, and it does add context. He said it would matter who owns the gun because one of the charges did have to do with possession. That is true. That is true. If you have possession of a firearm, whatever, it makes a huge difference whether it's yours and you own it or, someone else's sawed-off serial number. All these things come into play. However, the Life of Samad, was it the case that the gun was just like free floating around the car underneath the seat? Like, I don't think you're allowed to keep it like that. I think it has to be in a case and a whole like way it's kept. So I think if you don't keep it that way, you still can be prosecuted for not keeping it right. Some states are like that. I don't know if that's like that over there where this happened by Kylie Jenner's house. Thank you for that £4.99. Thank you, Biker Batty 313 for the 313. Can't wait for you to go through 36 hours later. I'm gonna go through. We're gonna be here a while on this case. I mean, like over the days. Shout out to the mods in the chat. Shout out to Oklahoma. Who's Camel Face? Okay. So finally, he wants to admit some evidence that was not introduced as evidence, but it was produced at trial. On December 16th, 2022, the district attorneys realized that the results of the fingerprints. This right here could be. Now, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying this is one of those things that could be so serious that it could overturn the whole trial. Just one thing. It's like one of those magic bullet, the magic box of bullets that got filed under a different case number. Fingerprint evidence from the gun were not provided to the defense. What? That's a big deal. That is material evidence. And I would venture to wager, based on how Tory Lanez is fighting, his fingerprints might not be on there. This is crazy, y'all. Can we agree? The DNA The DNA, inconclusive on the gun, inconclusive on the magazine. Fingerprints, non-existent. And they didn't run the DNA for the other girl. Why? Did they run it and lose it? I have questions. This is crazy. This doesn't feel like a fair trial to me, if this is true. I mean, we got to hear what they say back in response. Petitioner Peterson wishes to admit evidence that was produced at trial but not introduced as evidence. On December 16th, 2022, the district attorneys realized that the results of the fingerprints from the firearm were not provided to Tory Lanez. Ew, why did they spell defense like that? This is America. Ew. Spell it right. I hope they never make that mistake again. Why did they spell it like that? Ew. This evidence only recently became available to the undersigned counsel. So they're like, we didn't have the fingerprint evidence at trial. That's crazy. That's nuts. This final piece is imperative to consider along with the DNA evidence, as this establishes that the petitioner did not leave fingerprints on the weapon in question, but other fingerprints were present. What? The LAPD Hollywood division, I mean, is it the Church of Scientology at this point? Like, I'm just curious. Like, what in the hell is going on in here? The bullet fragments are lost. The defense didn't get fingerprints. They didn't present the Tory Lanez's fingerprints are not on this gun. Other people's fingerprints are, though. The defense did not have the fingerprints evidence. That's exculpatory. That's Brady, and I think it warrants a new trial. If I'm the judge, I've seen enough. This alone, new trial. That doesn't mean he gets off, but I don't think he got a fair trial. I don't think he got a fair trial. I don't. I'm just imagining if I'm sitting in that spot and there's fingerprint evidence. There's fingerprint evidence and it shows not one of my fingerprints is on a gun, and I'm being put in jail for 10-year prison for a gun charge. They never bothered to run who owns the gun. They didn't run who owns it. They didn't run anybody else's DNA who was in the car. The bullet fragments, allegedly, whatever, are missing. But Alex Spiro says they're not. So maybe they're not. I don't know. Maybe they're not. This doesn't mean he didn't do it too, y'all. However, if I'm a juror, I want to know whose fingerprints was on there. Was it Kelsey Harris? In discovery, they said his fingerprints were on it. I see some bots in the chat. That I do see some bots in the chat, because there's no way any red-blooded American. There's no way. Y'all grew up on court shows. Y'all all just told me y'all was watching Matlock and Bonanza. There's no way we're out here saying that this man needs to be locked up in jail whenever any man, any woman needs to be, any American needs to be locked up in jail when the prosecutors didn't find out who owned the gun, somebody lost the bullet fragments. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. Just hold that one to the side. And his fingerprints were not on the weapon. His DNA was not on the magazine, and it was inconclusive whether his DNA was on the weapon at all, which doesn't mean he shot it, by the way. I'm not sure a shot even happened. It had to. Actually, I think probably it did, because neighbors called 911 is what they said. So it must have been a loud bang. Somebody must have shot the gun. Whose fingerprints were on it? Please. Anybody in here saying you should be able to lock somebody up and keep from them and keep, it's not the fact that his fingerprints aren't on the gun. I want y'all to understand. It's not the fact alone that his fingerprints are not on the gun. It's a layer. It's a layer. That's one layer. The next layer is the prosecution knew that. They had the fingerprint results and they hoarded them and kept them back, allegedly. I wasn't there. I'm saying what if this is true. Lack of investigation as well. I wasn't even saying that, but yeah, that too. That too. These are his lawyers, Nikki Nash. This is him. This is his filing. And 5 other witnesses. Okay. Let's read a little bit more. Withheld. Exactly. This is the point I was trying to make. This is what I believe, and from what I understand about Brady violations, this is what I believe Two Frames Media is the biggest deal. It isn't that only. It's a big deal. Don't get me wrong. It's a big deal that his fingerprints are not on that weapon. It's a huge deal. That's fine. The bigger deal is that he was not able to argue that. Imagine how strong and powerful that would have been for his lawyers to stand up and say, and his fingerprints weren't found. The lawyers are saying they only just now got the evidence. You cannot withhold fingerprint evidence. This is classic Brady. This is classic Brady. Classic. And the standard isn't, oops, it was an accident. We didn't mean to. No, that's not the standard. The standard is, did it cause a miscarriage of justice? Was it a material mistake or a material thing that got left out? And it's, of course, obviously, fingerprint evidence from the weapon. And his lawyers didn't even have he didn't get a fair trial because his lawyers were not able to say, this is exculpatory, this is material, this is my opinion. This alone is enough to overturn this trial. In my opinion, this alone is enough. The fact he did not have fingerprint evidence and his fingerprints are not on the gun. Look, let's do a different hypothetical. If his fingerprints were all over that gun, it wouldn't be that big of a deal that they didn't have the fingerprint evidence, because it still would be exculpatory. It still could get overturned. But like when I'm trying to act like it's open and shut, like to me, this is a very big deal, is because imagine the impact on the entire trial. Imagine it was Mark Agnifilo that had this information and it was Diddy's trial. What would he be doing? And there was no evidence that my client ever even touched. There's not one shred. Let me get my Mark Agnifilo. There is not one shred of evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that my client ever touched that gun, much less fired it. There isn't one shred of evidence. That's what he would say. That's something like what he would say. So he wasn't allowed to say that. That's like the smoking gun. The gun ain't smoking because his fingerprints ain't on it. This is such a big deal. You mean to tell me his fingerprints ain't on the gun? And the prosecutors knew that. They had the fingerprint results. They never entered the fingerprint results into evidence, nor turned it over to Tory Lanez, and they relied on it. It's what? George only had 2 weeks to prepare because of Sean Chapman Holly, they saying. Yes, this Sean Chapman Holly, she's been on my list in the web for 5 years. 5. Sean Holly, Simply Fee said, was Kylie Jenner's lawyer at the time. The argument started at Kylie's house. Somebody take a screenshot of this. I need to remember this. I'm going to take a screenshot. Hold on. Holly conveniently quit after it was stated that Kylie wouldn't be a witness anymore. Very interesting. Thanks so much, April, for the $5 super chat. Can we pause and acknowledge how cute my niece is? I know I did my little, I was doing my founding father bounce yesterday. They kind of stopped bouncing now. Y'all made me brush them, so I did. Thank you for the $5. Thanks so much, CW, for the $4.99. Did they attach any exhibits to back up these claims? True. I haven't seen any. This is just claims. That's why I keep saying if true. That's why I keep saying if true. Thank you for the $4.99. If they didn't attach exhibits, they better be ready to prove it in court. Indeed. 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 And if you shoot somebody and you get bullet fragments in their leg, you should go to prison. That should be what happens to you. So if he did do it, he should be where he is. However, I need to see I need it to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. This would help if we had some evidence, like bullet fragments from somebody's leg. Some people were saying that there is an x-ray. So, I'm keeping an open mind. I just got here. His new lawyers are just finding out. I got you. He only had 2 weeks to prepare. They told him in the middle of the trial. His new lawyers are just finding out. This is just the surface. I know. I did remember she had some Johnny Cochran connects. They didn't show anything in court. I do. We quick. Is it Kiki or Kwee? I love how BJ talks back to the comments. Exactly. I will. Is Meg Thee Stallion still signed to Roc Nation? She was. I think she is. I wouldn't hire her. I wouldn't hire Sean Chapman Holly. Kelsey having immunity on the stand was enough for you, said Foreign. Is Kwee. Okay. The mayor at the time made sure the max time for Tory sentencing Hail Mary attempt for him to go garner local support and stay in office. Interesting. She is still, yeah, she still is. It's interesting. I have been seeing this pattern lately. They had a stick figure drawing as evidence during trial. Are you serious? You lying. The exhibits are at the end. All right, let's keep it going then. They use Megan for propaganda. Oh my God, I'm so glad you brought this up. Can we talk about that? Okay, is it too soon still? Can we just the cousins? Can we talk about how embarrassing that was? The sassy bougie sassy with the Party City pantsuit. It looked like Pee Wee Herman sexified for Party City. Like it wasn't like a custom like Etsy costume. No. We were Amazon. We were Party City. Sassy, bougie, classy. What was it? Well, like there was like a word in there that I was like, why, Megan Ann, are you doing it? What is this? How much? That's one of those moments where you're like, there's got to be you got to have a price where you're just like, you got to have the, she obviously has a price where she just will do anything. I'm saying you got to have a threshold where there's no price, like the issue is it also did not help in any way the campaign for Kamala Harris in any way. It actually made her seem more weird and strange. Oh my God, girl, they should have just did like a barrel race. They should have did, they could have did a rodeo. I mean, and she has a degree and she's educated. Well, I know why she wasn't speaking, because she's been put out as like a sexy sex thing. And it's like, it's got to be exhausting. It has got to be exhausting that like the only thing you're ever called upon for is to be like a sexy sex symbol. And then like, yeah. And then you get called to come to like testify against someone. And all of a sudden you're like, everyone shames me because a woman's not allowed to have sex. It's like, no, girl, come on, please. You were at the presidential election rally screaming about, screeching about you a baddie, a bougie ratchet, I think was one of the words. What? No. It's got to be exhausting. Anyway, poor thing. Anyway. All right, bless her heart. So, as such, the final piece is imperative to consider along with the DNA evidence, as this establishes that petitioner did not leave fingerprints on the weapon. This is huge. I got to make my box bigger. This is huge. This is the biggest, to me, if you're trying to keep track of what I think is the biggest deal, it's this fingerprint stuff so far. And I just learned that right now. Oh, God. I mean, I don't even think the homeowner was claiming her. They were embarrassed. They were like, what are you doing? No. It was a wrong place, wrong time. Period. Yes. Period. That's it. Exactly. Bigger box. We're going to need a bigger box. Okay. When coupled with the fact that Tory Lanez was also excluded from being a contributor of the DNA found in the magazine, and inconclusive to the weapon itself. I mean, they couldn't even get his weapon. He might have touched it too. Even if his DNA was on it, that don't mean he did it. But they couldn't even put his DNA or his fingerprints on it. That's crazy. I'm so hung up on this one. This is the biggest deal to me. And I didn't even write it down yet. Okay. It is questionable whether petitioner could physically fire a weapon and yet leave such little evidence. That could be his whole theory of the case. His entire case could have rested on this argument. How do you know beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it when his fingerprints weren't found, his DNA was inconclusive on the gun, and it was not found in any way on the magazine? How could someone be the one that physically did this crime? That is an excellent argument, and it probably could have been like the argument, but he didn't even have the evidence. This is crazy. I would be so mad if I was Tory Lanez, truly. I'm reading the Slim Tim said, it makes more sense in the Western sense than the hip hop scene. Again, Tory is from Canada and is more of a slime rapper than Southern. Okay, well, there you go. Yeah, I guess, Vita. I guess so. Wait, Jalisha said what? Jay Alicia said what? Highlight the whole file because you ain't seen nothing yet. Okay. I'm going. I'm going. I'll be mad if I was him too. It's a good point, Emma. Emma makes a point. If Tory is guilty, I promise you the evidence would not be lost. Maybe not. I don't know, but it's a good point. Yeah, this too, Emma. Yeah, we read that yesterday. Meg the Stallion gave up her power of attorney to Desiree of Rock Nation. Oh, good. So she's probably in a conservatorship or jail situation. She signed her life over. Power of attorney. Okay. So it's like kind of like a similar reason behind it, I'm sure, as a conservatorship. And this is something that we are going to have to come to terms with. It's been going on for a long time. All right. The mafia, like the Italian one, but then other mafias now, were really like close to the radio stations back in the 50s. We'll say we start there. It's been going on a long time. Let's start in the 50s. You had artists such as Frankie Lyman. Remember him? He was 13 years old. Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers. Why do birds sing so gay? Love is a fucking game they play. Why do they fall in love? He was 13-year-old black child. And it was segregation going on. He couldn't even actually go into these white establishments, but they would let him in. 13 years old. You had to be 21. You had to be white. They let him in. And the teenagers, who God knows what they were doing to these boys. Let's be honest. Maybe all that was happening is what we have been told, which is they were on the stage and drinking and smoking and doing songs and leaving. Probably worse things might have happened to these people, knowing what we know now. He ends up marrying like 5 women. many of them are much older than him. Then let's crank it up through Berry Gordy, everybody's hero at Motown. That's great. That's fine. That's nice. He did do a lot of great, wonderful things with the music world, but there was a certain type of, let me watch my words, pattern of treatment where artists were getting arranged marriage to each other. And Berry Gordy's kids was marrying the artists and things like that. Okay. And so who owns what rights to what and who inherits what rights to what? And then you have these, like, Berry Gordy is kind of the father of the 360 deal, right? Like you come into it was based on Detroit automobile manufacturing, where you start at the beginning of the assembly line, you come out the end and it's a car out of one warehouse. And so the people that have been doing these patterns and these treatments, it starts to become noticed. And so it has to take on a different form. And I believe the form that we are looking at now, it originated in the 50s with guardianships, where it would be like a young kid, like a 15-year-old kid on the road, and their parents would sign over a guardianship to somebody else. But then in so doing, you're signing over a lot of other rights. Signing over a guardianship to the den mother of the band, or then the person who you've been in control of since they were a child turns 18, turns 21, starts putting their money in trusts. You don't like that. So you got to get control of them some other way, by force, or maybe they'll agree to it, or maybe some combination. You're leaving out of this room in 2 ways, the door or the balcony, or whatever. So it's like Lou Taylor worked for this Davamos family, these investors, but that had, some type of connection with a mob. And they're all in the radio wins, 1010 wins or whatever in New York. That one was linked in. This payola, remember that? Clive Davis. There was testimony before Congress 20 years later in the 70s. This stuff it's Drake's lawsuit is kind of predicated on it. It's payola. You're paying to get the songs played. It's illegal. It's not allowed. So I don't know if it's happening. I don't know if it's not. But when I see things like this, oh wait, no, it was the comment, the power of attorney thing. It makes me think, along those lines. It's like, how did Britney Spears like single-handedly revitalize or invent even the whole genre of Vegas residencies and bringing them into the modern day? People go to Vegas because of Britney Spears. Well, she was not even legally allowed to make her own contracts at that point. Legally not allowed to make her own contracts. So who made those contracts? It was her dad, her conservators. So in a sense, it's kind of almost sort of like a loophole to be able to own someone as a slave. If you think about it, because she couldn't get out of it. She tried to get out of it. And CNN was publishing articles saying she doesn't need to get out of it. It's a conspiracy theory. She did try to get out of it. It was a hush-hush secret. She was making hundreds of millions, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, hundreds, plural. One residency passed, they signed her up for another. Another residency passed, they signed her up for another. When she said no, they drugged her. They put her on lithium, she said. The doctor who did that is now dead. It's reported he died from an aneurysm, but also reported he died from an embolism, which are completely different. So you can sort out what that was going on with that. Just like, again, I did a video on Aaliyah on my other channel, BJ Investigates. I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't there. Vita said Berry Gordy asked her father to do something illegal and her dad quit. Shout out to the good dads. Shout out to the good girl dads too, especially. One thing else about Berry Gordy. Did y'all know that Berry Gordy is like third cousins with Jimmy Carter, the president, who's white, and they have a grandfather in common? Did you know? Just wondering. That was on his Wikipedia page. That's not even like deep cuts knowledge. Don't know if y'all knew that. So when I say we probably all cousins, like I actually literally mean that. I actually literally mean that. Rock Nation told him not to make a statement. And then he was on live a few days later. Who? They told Tory not to make any statements, but then he did make statements. They saying? No. I'm not in no bloodlines. I promise you that. If I was, they wouldn't be coming after me like they do. I wouldn't be facing the federal lawsuits I do. Yeah, I know. Seriously. But yeah, no, I mean, I do often wonder about that one Beyonce lyric where she says, "My baby father, bloodline Rwanda." I'm like, I wonder if that's like double entendre for something. Obama and George Bush are also cousins. That's true. Okay, let's get back to this thing. Let's get a little bit let's like come up for air from the rabbit hole. I'm still so put beside myself about these fingerprints. Okay. So he requests to amend in good faith. Did not include this evidence prior to now because the new facts just became available. It was not known that he was unable to discover the identity. I don't know what the sentence means. It was not known that petitioner was unable to discover the identity of the owner of the weapon, as this may only be done by law enforcement. Due to such limitations, petitioner is presenting evidence that 2 out of the 4 people who were present during the event in question do not own the firearm. It is the only evidence available to petitioner for him to advocate for his innocence. In the interest of justice, petitioner praised the addition to Mr. Jaquan Smith's statement will be considered with his current appellate efforts. This statement from Mr. McDizian is imperative as further transcripts were unsealed. Just now, last month? The lawyer clarifies his own words from the in-camera discussion regarding whether Mr. Smith was going to be called as a witness, which took place on December 21st, 2022. The addition of this evidence supports and is in harmony with the prior statement of Mr. Smith. This is the guy who saw, who's there with them that night. He was the driver or bodyguard. I don't exactly remember. It's Valeri. Currently pending before the court. The declaration of the unknown witness. Oh, right. Mr. James. Right. Okay. The declaration of the unknown witness, Mr. James, remember remember Kelsey Harris apparently hired a bodyguard to be with her that day at court? Well, she apparently said something that day, while he was being her bodyguard that incriminated her. And he now has come forward recently and made it to be known that, she said something like that. He was afraid. Why? Because he was afraid for his safety. He did not want to lose his employment with Elite Security. I'm going to write that name down. Elite Security. When Mr. James spoke to his supervisor, he discovered that they did not have a confidentiality agreement with Miss Harris and would not. So he cleared it with his boss. Mr. James does not know Tory Lanez, nor does he know Jaquan Smith. He has nothing to gain from bringing forth this information, but for being able to know that his silence did not prevent an innocent man from being able to fight for his freedom. Finally, the evidence that Tory Lanez's fingerprints were absent. This right here for me. Y'all already know. If anybody ever asks you, as of July 31st, what I think is the biggest deal, I actually think if I'm a judge, I'm doing new trial, is this: the fingerprint evidence being withheld. The evidence that Tory Lanez's fingerprints were absent from the weapon was not presented in trial. And this was merely due to late discovery, which Mr. McDizian did voice his concerns and objections to such. Had the discovery, because a lot of times the judges will not overturn, like on the lower court level, Tory Lanez was denied an appeal because his lawyers did not object to certain things that he was now trying to argue. Well, here the lawyer is saying, on this one, he did object. The lawyer did at trial object and say it was too taken too long. He did object. He raised concerns and objections. It is. It's really bad. I'm sorry. It just is. Had the discovery been produced in a timely fashion, obviously this fact would have been determined in petitioner's underlying trial. Petitioner makes a good faith plea that this evidence could have changed the outcome of the trial. I agree. I'm trying to be fair. I am trying to be fair, but I totally agree that the fingerprint evidence being absent, him having no fingerprint on the gun, but yet there are other fingerprints, that in and of itself to me could have changed the outcome of the trial. It could have. I think so. Of course, this is only a speculation because how can I possibly know? It wasn't obviously it wasn't, apparently presented. Okay. So then you also have to show that it will not cause undue delay or prejudice to anyone to have the writ of habeas corpus granted or, to allow him to amend it. That's what he's asking to do in this particular filing that we're reading in these first few pages. It won't cause an undue delay. Oh, shoot, y'all. Y'all probably already know this, but they're putting out more evidence. Pam Bondi, is that the Attorney General? Who's the Attorney General? Or is it the Attorney General for California? No, this isn't federal. So who's the Attorney General? The Attorney General has recently granted a motion to unseal the in-camera proceeding from December 21st, 2022, making this amendment necessary for clarification of statements made regarding issues that have been raised in petitioner's collateral petition. He will be prejudiced if he is not able to fully present his claims and is unable to respond to the issues that the unsealed transcripts have brought forth. I hear something outside. Okay. So has this come out yet? What is this? The in-camera proceeding from December 21st, 2022. What was the in-camera proceeding? Ugh, this document. What is this in-camera proceeding? The Attorney General recently granted a motion to unseal the in-camera proceeding from December 21st, 2022. I tried to do the control find. Oh, I already read it. The stuff with... Which stuff? Okay. So then Exhibit 1 is his original petition. So all that stuff we just read is just additional stuff. So this is like the OG one that's been, all put together. This is not like the original one, but this was the one before the most recent. So the one we just read, it was 7 pages or yeah. It was about 7, 8 pages. The one we just read was just, he's trying to add some more stuff because he already has a pending writ of habeas corpus petition pending already. Then he combined it in with his regular appeal. So now he's like, wait, I still want to add some more stuff in the form of another habeas corpus, but like he's trying to get permission from the judge. So this thing we're about to read right here has already been filed and accepted. Who are these people? The name of the prison is Men's Colony. I don't like that. Ronald Bloomfield, Director of the California Department of Corrections. The people of the state of California. Nathan Hochman, who's the LA District Attorney. And Rob Bonta. On December 23rd, 2022, petitioner, that's Tory Lanez, was convicted by a jury on count 1, assault with a semi-automatic firearm, finding the assault had been committed through the use of a firearm causing great bodily injury, and having concealed firearm within a vehicle, not registered, in violation of penal code. He also got charged of convicted of count 3, discharging a firearm with gross negligence in violation of Penal Code Section 246.3. Also, just to let y'all know, right now, DeMore Hadley has a hearing going on. It's not televised or public to my knowledge. But just to let y'all know, it's 2:05 p.m. So at 2 o'clock, hold on, let me find my calendar here. 2 o'clock, she had a hearing today on the ROC Nation is trying to get sanctions against her, or Desiree, or whoever it is. Janae said, we have not seen a video of the in-camera proceeding. Has anyone seen the video? Yeah, I'm wondering. Everything you're reading now has been accepted as of yesterday. Yeah, it's very strange, a Waco sleeper. It's very strange. Ann said, rappers do not say dance, and neither did Tory. No one talks like that. Try again. Well, I mean, some people do. It was those people in those Western movies, like I said. Or did, I should say did. They probably, gone, rest in peace. But it's a very, like, when I hear dance and you're shooting at people's feet, I think of those Western movies. The Paw Paw movies. Okay, so sentencing took place August 23. He got 10 years. August 10th, also 2023, he filed his direct appeal. Collateral to the direct appeal, he filed his first petition for writ of habeas corpus. And like a couple months later. So August, he files the appeal. December, he files the first habeas corpus. The next year in October, he filed a successive petition for writ of habeas corpus. And a judge ordered these to all be considered together as one thing. Or like at one time. Petitioner, that's Tory Lanez, requests this court take judicial notice of the transcripts, then all the briefs and the motions and the records of the case. And he incorporates by reference all arguments, claims, and exhibits from the direct appeal along with the collateral. So he's saying, okay, everything I already said, just take notice of that. The following facts are derived from the underlying trial and from new evidence that was just brought to fruition. A full statement of facts is contained within the opening brief and the collateral petition for the writ of habeas corpus. I can't tell if it's like somebody's dragging a trash can outside or it's like the loudest thunder I ever heard. A full statement, opening brief on July 12th, 2020. July 12th, 2020. Petitioner, his driver and bodyguard, Mr. Jaquan Smith, Megan Thee Stallion, and Miss Kelsey Harris were traveling in a vehicle from a pool party where they had consumed numerous alcoholic drinks. A verbal altercation ensued and the vehicle pulled over. The situation culminated in a firearm being discharged in the direction of the ground. Megan Thee Stallion sustained injuries to her feet. However, she first claimed these injuries had been caused by broken glass and not from a ricocheting bullet fragment, as was later charged. She testified that it was the petitioner who caused her injuries, yet she gave conflicting statements in her stories. She stated that the variances were because she was embarrassed, traumatized, and scared of the police due to the recent George Floyd incident. She invoked her right to not self-incriminate at the trial, to which she was offered immunity. Kelsey Harris, so not Meg Thee Stallion. She pled the fifth. So she got immunity and testified. She still testified that she couldn't remember most of the questions presented. This allowed the people, that's the state of California, to move for admittance of prior statements that she made in an interview by the district attorneys. This 80-minute statement was played in its entirety to the jury without the defense receiving a transcript. Okay, this is another Brady-esque type violation. I don't think this one is quite as egregious as the fingerprints. I mean, that one is pretty scary. But this is a Brady-esque. This is one of those ones that whole cases get overturned because of stuff like this, or remanded back down to go do a retrial or whatever. This 80 or overturned and then, retried. This 80-minute statement was played in its entirety to the jury, but the defense did not receive a transcript. That's pretty serious. Not, again, the fingerprints thing is just so serious. It's going to be hard to find something else that serious, in my opinion. Paragraph 11, a neighbor who was awoken by the shouting, witness, Mr. Sean Kelly, he testified that from the balcony of his home, his son and himself saw two women fighting and two men breaking up the fight. Okay, so that was what he originally testified. He says then him and his son saw pew pew, fire coming from the passenger side of the car near the second woman. That would be, I think, Kelsey. Mr. Smith, that's the driver bodyguard, has provided a statement contained with the petitioner's collateral petition for writ of habeas corpus. He swore that as he pulled the vehicle over, Meg the Stallion and Kelsey were fighting. Then Jaquan clarified that while he pulled Megan the Stallion back to the back of the vehicle, Jaquan saw Kelsey with a pew-pew in her possession. As Tory Lanez ran from behind him toward Kelsey, Jaquan stated in his statement that as Meg the Stallion and himself reached the back of the vehicle, he did not see who fired the pew-pew. Jaquan wishes to add this to his prior statement, he wants to add to his prior statement to further include that he does not own the firearm in question, nor does Tory Lanez, to the best of his knowledge. Furthermore, in all of his interactions with Tory Lanez, he has not ever witnessed Tory in possession of any firearm. The additional statement by Jaquan is attached to this petition. Now, this was already filed, and this is already on record. But now the lawyers for Tory Lanez want to add yet more, even more. So sitting here today, July 31st, 2025, as of, July 28th, 2025, Tory Lanez's lawyers wanted to add even more to this statement, which has already had additions added to it. But this right here was already allowed to be added, right? We're reading the original kind of like previous version of this. On June 17th, 2025, the Honorable Court of Appeals granted the Attorney General's motion to unseal the transcripts from an in-camera proceeding. So the transcripts, so not the video. Now, apparently, allegedly, the actual video is going to get unsealed. Apparently, allegedly. Foxy Barbie said they also sealed the call. There's got to be thunder. Somebody check the weather. Hold on. Tornado warning. Thanks, Monica. There's a tornado warning across New Jersey right now. I'm like, it sounds like, the sound when somebody's dragging an empty, one of them blue city municipal trash cans, the blue ones, dragging it down the gravel. And you just see, but it like lasts for so long because they're dragging it down it's like been sounding like that outside my house. And it's like, how many gravel driveways are there? There's not many. It has to be thunder. Flash flood warning. Well, thank God I don't live in a flood zone. State of emergency. It's a state of emergency. I didn't even know. I'm like, is someone dragging their trash? I'm like, damn, they must have been out of town. Trash day was days ago. Flood warning. We got a flood warning going on. That's cute. Okay. Regarding whether Mr. Smith would testify. Okay. So these transcripts, sorry, Foxy Barbie, they sealed the call to the police, which you would have heard the argument. Okay. So they sealed the call to the police too, they saying. So much evidence was withheld, delayed, sealed, lost. It seems like that. Two Frames Media, it does seem like that. Y'all had a tsunami warning in Washington. Oh, yeah, in Hawaii, too. The 911 call is still sealed. Why? Thank you so much, AIR, for the $4.99 too. If she goes to jail, it's bad for them. True. They used her for so much propaganda. I got so distracted by the whole I had such a flashback to that traumatic, like really bad moment in our collective American history when she was screaming about being a savage and ratchet or whatever, that I didn't even read this comment, which makes an excellent point. Thank you. They use her for so much propaganda that if she goes to jail, it's actually going to be pretty bad for them. I mean, that they there's a lot of interests at play. That's for sure. Thank you, Kaylee, for the $1.99. Tori's live he did before he was gagged says a lot. And I didn't even read it yet. I mean, I didn't watch it yet. Thank you so much for that $1.99. They need to unseal it for sure. At this point, yeah. When he gets her little razzle dazzle, you're funny. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing collectively. It was embarrassing collectively. I mean, I kept it to myself at the time. There was like a lot of people saying, you know, I didn't feel like I needed to add, but since you mentioned it, Kelsey also said she felt pressured by the prosecution to give that 80-minute statement. Interesting. So last month, the appeals court granted the attorney general's motion to unseal the transcripts from that in-camera proceeding. Now, the in-camera proceeding was whether or not Jaquan was going to testify, whether or not he was going to be called forward to testify. The Tory Lanez attorney at the time was George McDecian, who was present on that day. He has provided a statement to clarify why he stated Mr. Smith would be, quote, unfavorable. He was only referencing that Mr. Smith did not plan to stay in the area. The holidays were merely days away. With the timing, they also risked losing the jury. Tory's lawyer did not want to have a mistrial and felt that the key witness, Sean Kelly, had effectively put the firearm into Kelsey Harris's hands. And these are all from sealed proceedings. So the transcript for this was released last month. I bet you it's on that 36 Hours website. I obviously haven't had a chance to read every single thing on that website, but it's a really good repository. Or is it repository? I think that's what it's called. So his lawyer at the time also explained that due to the withdrawal of Sean Chapman Hawley, he only had 2 weeks to prepare. The statement is attached to this petition. Recently, Mr. Bradley James has come forward and given a statement as well. At the time of the underlying trial, he was a bodyguard for Elite Security. They were hired to accompany Kelsey Harris to court on the days that she testified, December 14th and 15th, 2022. Therefore, the bodyguard has first-hand knowledge of the facts he is presenting. He does not know Tory Lanez. He does not know Jaquan Smith. He does not know Meg the Stallion. As described in his statement on December 15, 2022, he was driving with Miss Harris. This is the other lady who had gunshot residue on her hands. And a man that Mr. James believed was the father, so the baby daddy, to a restaurant named Fixin's. Oh, that sounds good. Bet you it's so good. At this time, Mr. James so the bodyguard overheard a conversation. He overheard Kelsey Harris say she was relieved that her testimony was over. So they're going to Fixin's to eat, her and her child's father. And they have the bodyguard, and they all going to eat. They're about to feed this bodyguard, and they talking. And she said, oh, I'm so glad my testimony's over. Furthermore, she apparently, allegedly, according to this filing, said, quote, she did not want anyone to get hurt when she shot the gun 3 times in the air. What? This just came out last month? I'm like, what? Pull up that menu. I am. It sounds good. I'm hungry. Hungry. Fixin's. Where was this trial? California? Los Angeles. I bet you they got like cornbread. Yes. Oh my God. It looks so good. Hold on. Let me pull the menu up. Oh my God. I was right. Oh, it looks so good. Hold on. This where they was going, y'all. This where they were when she snitched on herself. Allegedly. Look. Authentic soul food. Welcome to Fixins. Give me the menu. They got one in Tulsa? Let's go to LA. LA, Maine. All right, y'all. Pick what you want before the waiter comes. I definitely just be getting the little bits because I can never eat a whole plate. Gumbo with what? Does it have okra in it? I don't want okra. Ugh. So I would ask about the gumbo. I'd say, does it have okra? If no, I'm getting it. Chicken and sausage. I'm like a vegetarian now, but like I make exceptions. Deep fried deviled eggs. I know y'all would probably like that. I don't like deviled eggs. A lot of people loves that. They got fried green tomatoes. I think that it needs to be studied. All the people that had to leave New Orleans from the Katrina and who started restaurants. Because a lot of times you'll see it was like that at these places. Like this is like extremely authentic looking. Well, how you know about a fried green tomato in Los Angeles, you know? Looks good. Oh my God. I'm getting cornbread muffin for sure. I'll try the biscuits. Definitely try the biscuits. I mean, I'll probably order a little bit of everything. That looks good. Oh my God. Yum. Shout out to Fixins, not sponsored. Seriously. Should we have a meet and greet? Should I have my first meet and greet at Fixins? Chicken and waffles. Dude, I didn't see chicken and waffles. Lunch on me. Please. I can't even afford these court documents. Maryland is a pool right now. Oh my God. Shout out to the Maryland cousins. Now all y'all want food. No wrong decisions. No wrong decision. And then if it had okra in it and the gumbo, I'd probably just pass it down the table to somebody would eat it, you know. Callie Misfit said, yes, please come. Okay, let's get back to what we were doing. We were doing serious business, okay? Two Frames Media got me distracted. You don't have to threaten me with a good time. Look up the menu. Okay, right away. Right away. Jack said he was wondering what was on the menu too. So they were heading to go eat some good food. They were about to go eat. I wonder what they ate. Table Talk with Mimi. Shout out to you. Thank you for the $1.99 super chat. BJ, I did a full breakdown on 36 hour. Check it out. Will do. Hold on. It's on your channel. Table Talk with Mimi. Let me write it down. When did you do it? So I can know which video. And what's it called or something. Just like so I can narrow it down. Roscoe's I heard of. I heard of that. I know. I know. It got some truth serum or something. Keek said they put the truth serum in there. They got the scopolamine and the let me not do that. That's probably my cousins at Fixins, y'all. Let me not make rumors. Okay. She did not want anyone to get hurt. She shot the gun 3 times. Grab the gun. Okay. She admitted allegedly, apparently, on the way to Fixins. Fixins, catching strays, pun intended. She shot the gun 3 times in the air. She said that in the car, apparently. Now, the Bodyguard reports that Kelsey clarified that it was at this time that Tory Lanez ran up to her and grabbed her hand. Miss Harris said this? Oh, this was TT. She really had some truth serum. She was just saying it. And I mean, look, listen, whenever you have a bodyguard, that person is responsible for protecting your life. So I can imagine that you probably get it in your mind that you can trust them. But, you know, no offense, and I won't name any names, just the way that these bodyguards have come out here and talked about Diddy after happily accepting paychecks from him for years makes me like, I'm never having a bodyguard that's not my family, like fam. Like, I'm never having one because I don't do Diddy activities and I don't do, you know, this type of activities. I don't do pews and all that activities. So, I mean, really, you could just say whatever you saw, you know, but at the same time, like I need to be able to trust somebody with my life. And so when people do, they trust these these security guards, the really good ones, they will literally protect your life. And so it's kind of like people feel like they could let their guard down and say just any old thing. Or maybe this isn't true. Maybe this security guard is full of it and is lying. I don't know. I wasn't there. But there's apparently a transcript that's been released of this. Oh, no. This guy's written a statement. This guy's a statement he's willing to put on. on the record. They were on their way to Fixins. He was driving. He was driving Kelsey and her baby's father to a restaurant called Fixins. We did the Fixins detour. It looks good. At this time, the bodyguard overheard Kelsey say she was relieved her testimony was over and she didn't want anyone to get hurt when she shot the gun in the air 3 times. I mean, that is kind of very specific. I don't know if she said that or not. The guy, his statements go on to report that Kelsey clarified that it was at this time that Tory Lanez ran up to her. So she's in the car. She's like, that's whenever Tory, Daystar Peterson, he ran up to me, pushed my hand down as the gun went off 2 more times. So she went 3 in the air, boom, boom, boom. And then she got her hand pushed down by Tory. And then that, is the 5 shots. That actually adds up. Hold on, let me make sure. So What I Lied is on the thumbnail. Small channel, thanks. Shout out to you. Thank you for that $1.99. So What I Lied is what's on the thumbnail. So we will go and take a look at that in a while. Oh Lord, Lizzie, that's a whole extra side theory. So that would actually add up as to why that would actually, this story that this bodyguard says, Mr. James, he, Bradley James, his story actually adds up with the evidence. Cause see, like the evidence that I've seen doesn't add up to Megan getting shot because the bullet fragments are allegedly missing. Now, Alex Spiro, he said it wasn't missing. Apparently, allegedly. So I don't know if they're missing or not missing. Okay. But inconclusive there. Then we have also inconclusive DNA evidence on the gun. No DNA evidence on the magazine. So the evidence is just kind of like floating out there in infinity. And there is gunshot residue on Tory Lanez's hands and also on what's her name's hands. But his fingerprints ain't on the gun. Whose fingerprints are? We don't know. I don't know. But that's starting to make it like if this story happened, that all of that evidence is still, it's sitting pretty where it is. Like we don't have to explain any of this evidence. It's like, yeah, she had it. She pew-pewed in the air, then pew-pewed to the ground. Maybe she wasn't trying to shoot Megan. And pew, 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 pew woke the neighbors up. The people were on the balcony. They saw the 2 women fighting. It's kind of all starting to reconcile with this version. I don't know. I'm on page 17. I don't know. They said this bodyguard did not come forward prior to now because he was fearful of retaliation, as has happened to others who have provided testimony in the underlying trial. Okay, so people have been retaliated against in the underlying trial. That's a question I want to explore. I'll put questions, my notebook here. What is this? I want someone to tell me, point me in the direction if you don't mind. What retaliation have people faced? I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I'm actually brand new. I just got here. So it's not like I'm like, no, they didn't. I'm like, just give me, the patience of like, I'm not asking like, what retaliation? Like, no, I'm actually asking. Okay. He didn't want to lose his livelihood. That's fair. That makes sense. This tracks. He relies upon this livelihood to care for his children. He didn't want to risk his employment by coming forward with the information, but knowing that a wrongfully convicted man is facing such a severe penalty, while he held the information that could help this man, it was weighing on his conscience. He was compelled to share the knowledge that he is privy to. If that's true, shout out to him. Shout out to him for doing the right moral and ethical thing. The verified statement of this bodyguard driver is attached. It's fully incorporated, verbatim, fully incorporated, They had a typo here. His statement directly contradicts the testimony given by Meg the Stallion, which was also not in concert with what was reported. So Meg the Stallion and what's her name, Kelsey's testimony didn't add up with each other's, apparently, according to this thing. And on top of that, it was going to be a third version. if this guy was allowed to testify, but he didn't come forward at the time. He was scared to lose his job, but now he's ready to talk. Now, is that on its own enough to overturn? No. That on its own is not going to be some magical, oh, there's a new guy, because there's a lot of things that could happen. It's like there has to truly be newly discovered evidence. And sometimes, yeah, if somebody has a change of heart, a change of conscience or conscious or whatever, it can be under the previous existing statutory regime that someone could get their case overturned. Now, there is this SB 97, which is what's really helping to boost the Tory Lanez appeal, in my opinion. There's a new statute. It's the Senate Bill 97 in California. And it is some of this stuff, I think, on its own before that Senate Bill 97 is bad enough to warrant a new trial. I think the fingerprints alone is enough. But I think when you take it into to context with all the other stuff, it's a few reasons on their own probably are enough. That seems like a Brady violation to me. But some of these reasons are just kind of cumulative. Like, it's like, maybe it could, maybe it couldn't, but I'm not like ringing the alarm. Like the fingerprint thing for me, I just want to keep it categorized is like very serious, and the most very serious for the reasons that I already explained. But this right here is still something. It is still something. And so I don't know if in and of itself, this new testimony from this bodyguard is enough. To overturn the trial, because there's all these standards, there's all these tests. It isn't just a gut check. It isn't like the judge is like, I feel like doing it. I mean, no, you have to go through all these standards and tests and precedents. Also, this bodyguard's statement comports with the testimony of the independent witness, Mr. Sean Kelly, further supports the statement of Jaquan Smith, the driver. It is likely that this security guard for Kelsey Harris' statements would have changed the outcome of the petitioner's underlying trial. True, like if that was known at the time, like let's say the next day they like came back in and they were like, guess what she said yesterday on the way to the chicken place? Oh, they didn't go to Roscoe's, they went to Fixin's. Guess what she said yesterday on the way to Fixin's? She said she shot that pew pew. Right? Like that would have probably changed the course of the trial at the very least. I mean, maybe even the outcome. What if there was a video or an audio recording of that? Okay. To note, as we already said, forensic testing did not resolve the question of who the shooter was. For clarity, both Kelsey Harris and Tory Lanez had gunshot residue on their hands. Inexplicably, considering the residue results and the wildly conflicting testimonies and the different versions of events being told, the only DNA sample or fingerprint sample collected for analysis and comparison to the firearm was Tory Lanez. This is another, let me get my box. Hold on. This is another one where I'm like, wait, hold on. No, this is fishy. And this is where it started in the investigation and continued in the trial, the miscarriages, I believe, what appear to be miscarriages of justice. This seems like negligence or incompetence. So this right here, you don't have to prove the police acted with some kind of negligence. You don't have to prove the police acted with some sort of malice. You just have to show that they did something that no reasonable police department would do, which is not check who owns the gun, not check the DNA of the other person who had gunshot residue on their hands. This is unreasonable. Sequoia said, I thought he was in jail for being a felon with a firearm, not a pow-pow. Not for pow-powing Meg. Well, people are saying he was never a felon. He's never been in any trouble. That was fake news, they saying. I didn't see anything in the charges that he was convicted of at the top of this thing that indicated that he was a felon. He didn't have a criminal record, they saying. I mean, I don't know. I didn't check. Okay, so this is a big deal right here too, I think. The fact that they didn't run there, somebody else had gunshot residue on their hands and they didn't run that person's fingerprints or DNA. That's a big deal to me. And then they kept those exact same fingerprint DNA evidence, that exact same fingerprint evidence from him. I think he might get a new trial. I think it's possible. I truly do. I truly do think it is possible if this stuff is true. I haven't read the other side's arguments. Okay, let me read those before I really say, but it's just predictions. I really don't know. My predictions have been wrong. I have been wrong. Okay. Don't take anything I say as if it's going to definitely happen. Okay, there's already a receipt been shared. Okay, shout out to the side investigations going on in the lab chat. Okay. The test results ruled petitioner out. Tory Lanez is ruled out as a contributor to the DNA recovered from the magazine. So no, his DNA is not on the magazine. And inconclusive as to the pew pew. The inconclusive result demonstrates that the DNA percentage was so, I don't think that's the right word, minuscule. Now I got to look it up. I don't think that's the right word. Minuscule? Yeah, that's the wrong word. Minuscule talks about, it's minuscule. This is the word he meant to use, minuscule. I ain't gonna pull it up. It means extremely small and tiny. Minuscule, wrong word. Okay, that's fine. Moreover, the fingerprints, okay, hold on. Were so minuscule that, like, so minimal, so small, so tiny, so extremely tiny amounts. They could not definitively say that a sample came from him. Moreover, his fingerprints were also not found on the weapon in question. And this evidence was produced to the defense in the middle of the trial. And it was not disclosed in accordance to procedural rules. And that is why we have rules. It was not established that other sets of fingerprints that did not belong to petitioner were found. This raises serious questions as to whether physically the petitioner could have even done the actions in question, while leaving such little evidence while intoxicated. The results of the fingerprint analysis is attached here too. So they have the fingerprint attached. So we're going to see the fingerprint analysis too when we get to the end of here. Paragraph 22. Overall, the evidence presented in the underlying trial was conflicting. That's kind of the impression that I get. This is just conflicting. Like, it's just not enough. There's reasonable doubt still out here from what I've seen and read so far. Evidence of the underlying trial was conflicting. And since that time, new evidence has come to light that continues to favor Tory Lanez's innocence. This evidence clarifies such ambiguities and abuses of discretion that occurred in the criminal process. Therefore, in the interest of justice, petitioner humbly prays such statements will be considered by the Court of Appeals along with his pending direct appeal, collateral, and successive petitions for writ of habeas corpus. Hold on, let me see when his trial, his oral arguments are. It's next month, isn't it? I thought I wrote it on my calendar, but I guess I didn't. Okay, Monica has sent me the video. Shout out to you. Thank you for that. August 18th. So today is July 31st. August 18th is the hold on, I need to check something. I need to check my email. August 18th. So like 3 weeks. Girl. They trying to, oh dang. They got a new phishing scam out here. Oh, dang. Okay. All right. But that's, hold on. Sorry. I just need to check. Okay. I had some other like personal items that I needed to attend to. Okay. So let me pull this up. Okay. So now they're going to talk about this Senate bill Senate Bill 97 updated Penal Code Section 1473 to further define new evidence, giving petitioner an avenue to present said new statements. Signed into law by the governor on October 7th, 2023, Senate Bill 97 expanded the definition of new evidence as found in Penal Code Section 1473. Relief through a writ of habeas corpus was previously only permissible if new evidence could not have been discovered prior to the close of trial by using reasonable diligence. So it used to be just like, okay, if you could have found with just a reasonable amount of looking this evidence at the first trial, you're not getting a new trial based on this. Well, this new statute came along and changed that a little bit. As it stands today, Penal Code Section 1473 now includes new evidence that, quote, is presented without substantial delay, is admissible, and is sufficiently material and credible that it more likely than not would have changed the outcome of the case. Furthermore, so long as presented without substantial delay, that is sufficiently material and credible, that would more likely than not have changed the outcome of the trial, may be brought forth as new evidence. This is now defined as evidence that evidence which, quote, has not previously been presented and heard at trial and has been discovered after trial. Okay. A writ of habeas corpus, also known as the Great Writ, is a process guaranteed by both the federal and state constitutions to obtain judicial relief from illegal restraint. The function of the writ of habeas is set forth in Penal Code Section 1473. Quote, every person unlawfully imprisoned or restrained of his or her liberty under any pretense whatsoever may prosecute a writ of habeas corpus to inquire into the cause of such imprisonment or restraint. Senate Bill 97 revised the definition of new evidence to eliminate the requirement of due diligence and that the evidence is not cumulative. Further, Section 1473 was broadened so that the challenged false evidence need not be substantially material or probative on the issue of guilt. Now, false evidence that would have changed the outcome of the case may be presented and provided relief through this section. The results of the fingerprint analysis was only provided to petitioner Tory Lanez on December during trial, after the trial began. It was not introduced in the underlying trial, which meets the recently updated definition of new evidence. Okay, so very, very intricate loophole, but it is, and it does exist apparently. Because the evidence was not presented at trial, it was shown at trial, it got brought up at trial, but it wasn't presented as evidence as according to the rules of how you're supposed to give the evidence. And it, again, y'all, this isn't just any old little thing. Like, this is the fingerprint evidence that shows that his fingerprints are not on this gun. That is a big deal. As prior statements from Mr. Smith, Jaquan Smith, were considered for argument in this Court of Appeals as new evidence, so too should this amendment be permitted, as this argument was fully developed within the collateral petition to which Tory Lanez is seeking to amend with the instant filing. Tory Lanez fully incorporates his arguments therein contained in his collateral petition for writ of habeas corpus as if set forth here. The statements from the lawyer are relevant. Mr. James is a new witness. So they're just attaching each thing, each one of these things they want to put in, these new statements, these new things. They're showing that these qualify under this new Senate Bill 97 thing. He's raising new evidence by statements heard by people in the car. So this is all new under this new law. That's what they're trying to argue. Now, it hasn't been decided yet. This is going to have to go to the court, and the court's going to decide. The statement from the new witness is relevant and admissible through the California Evidence Code as an exception to the rule against hearsay. So they make the hearsay arguments. Declaration against interest is one of them. Inconsistent statement. The impeachment evidence is one of them. Statements in question are admissible. Prior identification. It's a hearsay exception. A mental state at the time. For the reasons presented above, Tory Lanez is respectfully requesting that the Honorable Court of Appeals exercise its discretion to allow petitioner to amend his collateral petition for writ of habeas corpus. Verification, proof of service. The first writ of... Oh, here's the Jaquan Smith affidavit. So let's read through this. My name is Jaquan Smith. I'm over the age of 18. I have first-hand knowledge of the facts in question that took place on July 12th, 2020. That is the basis of the above cited proceedings. To add to my prior statement, the firearm that was used on this day is not owned by me. I was never in possession of it and was not aware that it was in the vehicle. He was not aware that it was even in the vehicle that he was driving. Additionally, it doesn't belong to Tory Lanez. I've never witnessed him carry one, as he is from Canada. That was signed this month. My name is George McDeskin. I have firsthand knowledge of the facts in question that took place on December 21st, 2022, as I was the attorney of record for Tory Lanez through Superior Court case number BA 4900599, and I spoke the words in the in-camera proceeding. I advocated for Tory Lanez to the best of my ability. I became his lead attorney approximately 2 weeks prior to the trial, as Sean Chapman Hawley, his former counsel, withdrew. In hindsight, I should not have used the word favorable or not favorable to discuss the testimony of Mr. Jaquan Smith. When I stated such, I remember doing so merely because of the concern of having a mistrial due to the holidays only being a few days away. Although Jaquan Smith was going to say Miss Harris was in possession of the weapon, I believed at the time that the key witness, Sean Kelly, was going to or had done a sufficient job in establishing the same. Because the testimony of Jaquan would have been cumulative and risked running into the Christmas holiday, I did not call him as a witness to testify in Tory Lanez's trial. This is Bradley James. This is the bodyguard driver who drove him over there to Fixins. My name is Bradley James. I'm over the age of 18. I'm fully competent. I have firsthand knowledge of the facts in question that took place on the 2 days that Miss Kelsey Harris testified, which was December 14th and 15th, 2022. And this is the basis of the above cited proceedings. I work for Elite Security for approximately 2 years and longer than this for the owner of the company on various similar projects. I'm assuming security. Miss Kelsey Harris hired Elite Security to accompany her to court the 2 days she was testifying. This is the only time she has been a client. I have not worked for Daystar Peterson nor Meg the Stallion. I heard these statements as we were in the car getting a bite to eat after court. We went to a restaurant called Fixins. Ms. Harris and the father of her child were the only people in the car, and she later also said similar statements to her attorney of record in front of the courthouse and in the cafeteria. That is crazy. That is crazy. She was nervous. Who's her attorney? Who is Kelsey Harris's attorney? She later also said similar statements to her attorney of record in front of the courthouse and in the cafeteria. She was nervous and speaking generally, asking questions. Her lawyer was telling her it would be okay, and she could plead the fifth if she was uncomfortable. I heard Miss Harris question, how can I not tell on myself? And how am I protected if I tell certain things? The father of her child then explained immunity to her. At Fixins, oh Lord, what happened at Fixins, girl? And what did they order? Miss Harris stated that she pew-pewed the gun 3 times in the air. And Tory Lanez ran up to her and grabbed her arm and pushed it down, and that caused the pew-pew to fire 2 more times. I have not said these statements until now, as I have heard rumors of the threats that others have received from being involved in the case. I did not want to lose my employment, because I rely on my employment to care for my children, and I was trying not to eavesdrop, but I could not help but overhear these statements. Generally, Elite Security does follow confidentiality, yet we do not have such an agreement on file. And I decided to come forward, as this has been weighing on my conscience, and I decided the right thing to do is come forward with this information. He put that on the record last year, about a year ago, August 2024. Let me just get through the pages that might have addresses on them. Okay. Here's the DNA analysis. Her attorney's from Rock Nation, but who? Which one? in the cafeteria at the courthouse. This is the lab test report from the LAPD. Profiles have been entered into the system database in accordance with the state and national regulations where regular searches will be performed. Notification will be issued if there is a hit in the database or if the profile is removed at any time or in the future. Comparisons may be attempted to profiles deemed suitable. Items submitted. Swab of handgun, swab of magazine, reference buccal sample from. This is crazy. Every single person in the car Meg the Stallion should have had her DNA. Everybody's DNA should have been took. The DNA profile was obtained from Daystar Peterson, that's Tory Lanez. Number of contributors, 4. On the handgun, there were 4 people's DNA. Inconclusive. 90% of the DNA on the gun was somebody else's, so it ain't his, right? There's 4 samples on there. Look, 4 samples of DNA, 4 different unique DNAs came up, including 1 male, because you can test DNA for male, female. Like, even if you can't find out who it is, you can sometimes know, like, the gender or whatever. So at least 1 male. But if it was 4 males, it would say that, I think. The DNA proportions, 90% of the DNA on the gun was somebody else's. There was a 5% DNA, 3%, and a 2%. And it was inconclusive as to whether his DNA was on there. The contribution of him to the DNA mixture profile is inconclusive because the likelihood ratio was uninformative. The DNA profiles of an unknown, this is a male, 90% contributor, male 1, 5% contributor, an unknown 3% contributor, and unknown 2% contributor were determined. So it was a male and 90% contributor. So there was a male who touched the gun. But it's inconclusive as to who. Now, swab of the magazine, 4 contributors excluded, not in on the magazine at all. So someone else had to load that gun. That's what I'm thinking. Unless I guess it could be cleaned off, but the DNA profiles of an unknown 62% contributor, unknown 26% contributor, unknown 9% contributor, and a 3%. None of the DNA profiles obtained during the analysis are suitable for entry into the database. So he was excluded. So his DNA was not on. Oh, that's it? Where's the fingerprints? They didn't put the fingerprints in here? I want the fingerprints. Where's that? Thanks so much for the $10 super chat, Cat Eyes. Free Tory till it's backwards. Shout out to you for that super chat. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Table Talk with Mimi. Oh yeah, let me go to that. So I can show y'all her channel. Oh, Chronicle Speaks done put out a video, exclusive video of tense encounter between Wendy Williams' son and ex. What? Hold on. I'm nosy. I like Chronicle Speaks channel.
Now, I'm not one to gossip, but I will bring you the tea. Welcome to Chronicle Speaks. In the midst of Wendy's guardianship proceedings.
Exclusive video of tense encounter between Wendy Williams' son and ex-court appointed lawyer. Oh my God, what they doing?
That's fine. So I just have a couple questions for you about questions regarding what? Just and in order.
That is crazy. I'm gonna have to look that up after this live stream's over. Let me get this Table Talk with Mimi. Okay, she has a video. Let me pull this up. Called They Lied. Oh, wait, hold on. Actually, someone sent it to me. Hold on. Here it is.
From the Crossroads of America.
This one right here. Okay, it's 51 minutes long. Tory Lanez might really be innocent part 2. And then the thumbnail is like they lied. So what I lied or whatever. I'll have to check that one out. Thank you so much for those super chats. Cousins, can we get the likes to catch the number watching? Yes, shout out to you, Joyful Ladybug. Thank you for the 199. I know his name's Daystar. I love that name. Oh, well, now you ruined it. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Daystar, like morning star, that means Lucifer? No, we not I rebuke if so. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Doubt was plentiful. 2 Frames Media said. Listen, I've been on here almost 3 hours now today, y'all. I'm about to get off of here. I gotta go do some other stuff. But no, don't ruin it, Killing her. No, she's like, no, I like the morning star. I know. And sometimes I'm just, they've had it long enough. I like to take stuff back. I reclaim. But yeah, no, that's ringing the bell. Put the bells in the chat just in case. But yes, thank you for the super chats and all that. I guess the next time we come on here, I don't know what we'll talk about. Let me know what we should talk about next. Should we talk about more Tory Lanez? Are y'all bored with this? Should we talk about Ghislaine Maxwell? There's been some movement over there in that case. Let me know. Sean Davis said, no, in the Bible, the morning star is associated with Jesus. I hope so. That's all I realized for this one. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Neither are opinions. I don't know any of these people. Form your own opinions. Love you, mean it. Okay, bye.